We're now calling the meeting to order. It is 2:00 p.m. Welcome to City of Laguna Woods City Council meeting. And if our clerk will read the introductory notes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the public may provide public comments and testimony during this meeting in person, in writing, or remotely using Zoom. The Laguna Woods City Council Guide to Public Participation, which is included in the agenda packet for this meeting immediately following the agenda, contains additional information on how to provide public comments and testimony. Each speaker will have the opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes, once per agenda item, unless otherwise stipulated by the City Council. Speakers may not yield their time or any portion thereof to any other speaker. Speakers are requested, but not required, to identify themselves. To ensure each speaker is provided with an uninterrupted opportunity to speak for the full time allotted, the City Council and City staff are asked to reserve any responses they wish to make to public comments until after each speaker has completed their comments. For public hearings, the City Council and City staff are asked to reserve any responses they wish to make to public testimony until after the public hearing is closed.
Thank you. And may we have the roll call?
Thank you. Councilmember Horn is present. Councilmember Connors. Councilmember Moore. Mayor Pro Tem Lee.
Here.
And Mayor McCary.
Present. Thank you. Now we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mark Monin from the Water District is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to our great country. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So now we're at item 4, presentation of ceremonial matters. The first one is Wildlife Awareness and Prevention Season. If you, a clerk will read the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City of Laguna Woods Wildfire Awareness and Prevention Season, Midsummer through Early Fall 2026 proclamation. Whereas in 2020, California experienced a record-breaking wildfire season with over 4 million acres burned across the state. In 2024, California faced 8,024 wildfires that burned approximately 1,050,012 acres, reflecting a significant increase from the previous year. And whereas the recent wildfires in Los Angeles County, including the Eaton and Palisades fires in early January 2025, resulted in at least 29 fatalities and destroyed over 16,000 structures. The economic impact of those fires is profound, with estimated damages and economic losses reaching up to $250 billion. And whereas extreme fires are a growing threat to public safety, health and safety, homes, air quality, and climate goals. Approximately 25% of California's population lives in areas identified as high or very high fire hazard severity zones. Sudden and intense wildfires may swiftly emerge, traversing vast distances and penetrating urban zones far from their origin, thereby detrimentally affecting public health and diminishing overall quality of life. And whereas every citizen has a key role in preventing destructive wildfires from occurring, public education and up-to-date regional emergency planning are key to making our communities more resilient to the impacts of wildfire and other extreme weather events. Orange County residents can learn about Ready, Set, Go to prepare for wildfire season and help prevent loss of life and property at www.ocfa.org/RSG. Now therefore it be it resolved that the Laguna Woods City Council does hereby proclaim Midsummer through early fall 2026 as Wildfire Awareness and Prevention Season in the City of Laguna Woods, and encourages residents and businesses to do their part to raise public awareness take steps to protect our homes and businesses, and prevent sparking a wildfire. One less spark means one less wildfire. Dated this 15th day of July, 2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the proclamation, a second, and then we'll have some comments.
So move.
Okay, moved in second.
Aye.
Any audience comments? We do have one audience member with comments. Please, Mark Munyon.
Thank you, members of the City Council of Laguna Woods. I'd like to say the great work that you've been doing and getting prepared for the fire season. Fire season is many times lately all year round. So, you know, the fact that your city is getting ready for it and training everyone on it is important. I know, being a former PCF at Station 24, how important all these things are. And I just want to commend everybody for getting ready, and OCFA for supporting you and you supporting them. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any council comments on the proclamation? None?
On the wildfire.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's on the wildfire, right? Okay, I didn't know if you were other people were going to make comments. Every year I talk about this, I'm picking up cigarette butts again that have been left there and they've been smoldering, so there's ashes left on them. And I wonder if I should, you know, I have noted them here, I've taken photos in the past, and I wondered if we should address that too, because when everything's so dry, it doesn't take much. Anyway, that's my comment.
Did anyone from the fire authority want to make comments?
Mayor and council and Laguna Woods residents, hi, thank you, Reed Gibson. I'm your division chief for Orange County Fire Authority. It's my honor to be here and to speak in front of you guys. As you can see, I brought a whole team of people with me today, so we want to make sure that we're well represented and able to answer any of your questions. Yeah, as we can see, it's kind of warm outside, so we're kind of getting that feeling that this kind of fires could happen, right? And they all start with a spark. It all starts with the smallest bit, and it is good for people to have that education on that. And I know we provide that education on our website and through all of our various programs when it comes to whether it's discarding cigarettes, whether people doing work around their house, or any things of those natures, campfires and everything too. I did bring along our community educator, Milton Yera, to speak to you guys about a little bit on our wildfire preparedness.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, everybody, board members as well. We do have information actually and have done some PowerPoints on specific cigarettes and all that. So that's a great point, and we can continue to do so, and of course present and or do any fire safety classes if need be. I do encourage everybody to go to our website, ocfa.org. That's a great thing. And I'm going to also give you a phone number if you don't mind, if you can write this down. This is also a great resource if you want to do and follow our Ready, Set, Go program, but then also get a free assessment, home assessment. We encourage that you visit the website, do a home assessment of your own, and if you have any questions, obviously reach out to our personnel, which are extremely professional as well. So they can come over to your home. This is to schedule a wildfire assessment. It is 714-573-6774. Once again, 714-573-6774. You mentioned briefly about our Ready, Set, Go program, which we are really proud about. And it looks like this, just so everyone knows and sees it. There's a QR code right there. There's a phone number also there. And we definitely encourage everybody to please to participate, take the time. It is year-round, as some of you already are aware and have mentioned, but also very important is to follow the next two steps if possible. Number one is to create a wildfire action plan. That includes an evacuation for your family, communication plan, obviously, as well, a workplace, and also a school evacuation plan. For many of you that have kids, please make sure that you get in touch with their school's emergency manager and or someone within the school that understands what that means, and of course, come up with a plan as well. And then number 2, create a disaster and a supply kit, kind of like this one. It's a quick backpack, good for 72 hours, good so you have water, obviously, you have stuff for you and your family members. Very, very important. If you don't know how to do this, please visit the website. I'm going to give you another number, and that's my phone number. So if you need to set up a class, please feel free to let me know. My phone number is 949, right? Okay, 949-564-8887. Once again, 949-564-8887. Thank you much for your time. Very much. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, when you spoke of the home assessment, is that an exterior assessment regarding landscaping and shrubs around the home, or is it an interior regarding other kinds of hazards?
That will be exterior, so that's a great question, right? Okay, and if you have any questions beyond that, we can help you as well and give you some resources, but exterior would be the key. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
You talk also about barbecuing safety.
Yeah, so we have a great flyer also online, by the way, at our ocfa.org website. But yes, we talk about not just barbecue and safety, but where to place the barbecue, how to do so, of course, right? And then never leave it unattended. Always have somebody on site, have a fire extinguisher obviously available as well, how to turn it off. And we actually give free classes on how to use a fire extinguisher. So that number that I gave you, my personal number, we can come out, we can bring some fire extinguishers and teach you how to use it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, my question to you is that we can contact you if we want to set up a class. How long is these classes that you give?
That's a great question. The classes vary anywhere between half an hour to an hour, typically. Yeah, but it's going to depend on how many people you have, obviously the venue, and then, of course, how much information you need. But we're there to help.
Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
In addition to that, cigarette thing, in the village, as we grow older, a very serious part of this is leaving pans on in the kitchen. This is a real common
yeah.
thing. So do you address how to set timers or something?
That's a great question. Yeah, we do have a class on cooking fires because it is the leading cause of fires.
Right.
So great question. So we do go over, of course, what to have around your kitchen, how to keep it nice and neat, obviously, and what to keep away, stoves, grease fires, and stuff like that. So I would strongly recommend that you give me a call, and we'll be more than happy to come out and show you guys all that.
You know, you've mentioned the fire extinguisher. How do you feel about the blankets, the fire blankets?
That's a great question as well. So the fire blankets are not necessarily a bad thing, right? But what we don't want you guys to do is to get too close to the fire. As many of you know, a fire needs 3 elements, right, to survive. You need heat, obviously fuel, and of course, right, okay, oxygen. So by smothering the fire, that's the goal with that blanket. The key is that you're getting so close. And as you know, fires are so intense. Sometimes what people do is they just throw the blanket without really being able to smother the fire. So that's why we are strong believers of a fire extinguisher, because then you have that, right, distance, that barrier of space. So we can talk about that more in the class. We can even show you a little bit more about that, but fire extinguishers are definitely the key.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so it's been moved in second and no more comments. All in favor of this resolution? Let it be known by saying. Okay, we all agree. So we'll take a brief recess. Is there someone here to receive the proclamation?
Yes, ma'am. We can
We'll
definitely
take
do so now.
a
Yep.
brief recess for a photo. Now at item 4.2, 15 years of Measure M from the Orange County Transportation Authority.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor McCary and members of the City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Chris Buckley, and I serve as a Senior Department Manager for Public Outreach at the Orange County Transportation Authority. Today, I'd like to share how Measure M, which is the county's half-cent sales tax for transportation improvements, is performing now that we've reached the halfway point of the 30-year program. I'm going to highlight what has been delivered countywide over the past 15 years, what has been accomplished here in Laguna Woods, and the commitments OCTA remains focused on through 2041. Thanks. OCTA is Orange County's regional transportation planning agency, which means that we fund, plan, and build Orange County's transportation system. The agency was formed in 1991 through the consolidation of seven separate transportation agencies, improving efficiency and saving taxpayers tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. We do everything from operating transit to delivering freeway and street improvements to managing Measure M, and all while doing our part to protect the environment. Yay. Measure M, again, Orange County's half-cent sales tax for transportation improvements, is a vital funding source component in advancing the projects that improve and maintain Orange County's transportation network. The first Measure M delivered more than $4 billion in transportation improvements and was renewed by voters in 2006. Our current Measure M is a balanced plan expected to generate approximately $13.2 billion through 2041, meaning we are halfway through delivering the improvements promised to voters. 43% of the net funding is dedicated to freeway improvements, 32% is dedicated to local street projects, and 25% goes to transit. It also funds two environmental programs: the Freeway Environmental Mitigation Program, which has protected large swaths of open land, and the Environmental Cleanup Program, which focuses on funding projects that improve water quality by getting transportation-related trash and debris off streets before it can reach the ocean and other waterways. As I mentioned earlier, we are now halfway, or 15 years, into the 30-year Measure M program, and we've already delivered significant results for Orange County residents, commuters, and businesses. Many of the commitments made to voters are no longer just plans on paper. They're actually projects and programs that people are using every day. Over the last 15 years, OCTA has completed 17 freeway improvement projects and added nearly 100 miles of new freeway lanes to help improve mobility and reduce congestion throughout the county. We've invested more than $1.3 billion into local streets and roads projects, including more than $835 million that went directly to Orange County cities through the local fair share program. On the transit side, Measure M has helped expand transportation options for seniors and people with disabilities, while continuing to support Metrolink service and regional connectivity. And just as importantly, Measure M has delivered meaningful environmental benefits, preserving and restoring open space and helping improve water quality throughout the region. To help bring these accomplishments to life, I'd like to now show a short video highlighting some of the progress we've made over the past 15 years. Might need to. Sometimes when you share, you need to include audio. We have this available on our website too, so I'll share a link with you. It's really good because it highlights every aspect of our program. All right, coming into Laguna Woods. Measure M is delivering benefits throughout the county, and Laguna Woods has been an important part of that story. Since 2011, more than $5.6 million in Measure M funding has been allocated to projects and programs benefiting Laguna Woods residents. A significant portion of that investment comes through the local fair share program, which I mentioned earlier. That's designated to supplement, not replace, local transportation funding. Through that program, Laguna Woods has received more than $3.5 million to help maintain and improve the city's transportation infrastructure. Funds have also helped support 4 street rehabilitation projects, including improvements along El Toro Road and Moulton Parkway, helping preserve pavement conditions and provide a smoother, safer driving experience for residents and visitors. Measure M funding has also supported 4 signal synchronization projects along key corridors, including on El Toro Road and Moulton Parkway. By better coordinating traffic signals, these improvements help reduce delays, improve traffic flow, and make travel more efficient. Another important benefit for Laguna Woods is the Senior Mobility Program. Since 2011, the city has received nearly $1.4 million through this program to support transportation services tailored to the needs of older adults. Because Laguna Woods has one of the highest concentrations of seniors in Orange County, this funding plays an important role in helping residents remain connected to essential destinations, services, and activities while maintaining their independence. These are the kinds of community-focused investments that Measure M was designed to deliver, and they demonstrate how transportation funding can directly improve quality of life for residents. Can I try the video one more time? Absolutely, I'd love to. That concludes my presentation. On the screen, you can see a website, octa.net/Measure M15, which will provide more details about what I spoke about. And octa.net/Measure M provides an overview of the entire program. We have documented on there all expenditures to date, everything that each of the cities has received. So really good information, really helpful details about the program.
So we have a recommendation to receive and file, but we're doing that very slowly while Chris figures it out.
I did have a couple of questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see the laptop has the volume off?
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll matter.
Okay. Well, it was a good presentation. So the recommendation is, do I get a motion to receive and file, and then we'll open for comments?
Yeah, I would just like to say how much our residents appreciate the money and put it to good use for the senior mobility program and our excellent streets. So we're very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Horn. We get a lot of feedback on the senior mobility program. It's very well received.
Okay, so I still need a motion to receive and file.
Oh, I'll move the.
Okay, so any additional comments from council?
Okay, I was just waiting, nobody else. Okay, I did have a couple of questions. Number one, are there other counties that have done this in our even Southern California area?
Yes, there are several. Riverside County has a tax for transportation improvements, San Bernardino County, LA County, of course, and then Ventura, I believe.
Okay, so and Ventura have all done something similar. Thank you. Okay, the next question I had, I think we obviously see the benefits on this. I wonder, even grandfathering it, I kind of wonder how that's going to work, because seeing areas where people have such poor roads, and I see what the differences this makes, I'd hate to think it weren't there. There was one other question that I had. Oh, you didn't have the number, but I was kind of curious. Is it on your website showing the amount of money? It obviously varies, and how it compares to past years, because you predicted I thought it was 13.2 billion maybe, and I'm wondering how close you are going to be to that mark, and is that mark appropriate based on the changes that have occurred?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Moore. So that dollar figure is always adjusting, right? Because it depends on sales tax revenue, right? And that can change when the economy changes, right? So it's been, there have been some ups and downs. But we always leverage our Measure M funds to get state and federal grant funds. And we are more than able to stretch those Measure M dollars to make sure we meet all of our commitments through 2040.
Okay, so you're matching, and even though there's ups and downs, you're still meeting the matches that you need to move forward.
Yes.
Okay, then the next question I had, because the roads in Orange County, I believe, are superior to, certainly to Los Angeles County.
Our pavement condition index in the county is first in the state.
It is the first in, wow. See, these are things that are really important for us to understand. And that, to me, I notice it. In fact, someone commented, and so now my next question, I could have had some time on just having you present this. How does it work when you're talking about widening? Because we see the widening, I'm talking now about the 405. On the 405, they're open now in the Culver area, in that area. Okay, Mike, I have a couple questions. How do you work with this Caltrans to make certain that they're working and approving together the change in these various areas? That's one question. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the question. So let me step back a little bit and remind you of one of the slides, and that is that the Orange County Transportation Authority is the sort of regional planning agency, right? We handle the transportation planning for Orange County, and that's the entire county and its needs. We coordinate with Caltrans. Caltrans is the owner and operator of the state highway system. So through Measure M, if you remember back to the ordinance that we had that was on the ballot in 2006, it outlined a very clear set of projects. So we went to voters and said, not just we're asking for money and please give us money and we'll figure out what to do with it later. We had a very prescribed set of responsibilities and commitments in this guide, in this investment plan. And we worked with cities and the county on that, and Caltrans. So we have been implementing, we have 17 of those projects completed. There are 30 total. And one of them is the project, it's not the current project that you see on the 405 between I-5 and the SR-55. That's a Caltrans improvement, a Caltrans multi-asset project. They do safety and things like that. It's in maintenance. We handle improvements where we're adding a lane here or there, widening the freeway. We handled the 405 between the 55/73 and the county line. That's, with the 405 express lanes and the addition of one general purpose lane in each direction there.
It's very noticeable when you travel on the 405. I'm using that as a major one because it's such a dramatic difference between the number of lanes available when you leave Los Angeles and you travel into the county, and you can see the difference. Wow, it's believe me, after you've been, well, I won't even go into it. I think we all know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I really have a lot of questions, but I probably better not let them go on forever.
Thank you. I had one comment, but you go ahead. Councilmember Connor.
In terms of long-range planning and adding capacity, there is a theory that congestion doesn't mean you should add more lanes. It means you should add more transportation options. And I understood there was a state law proposed, but I'm not sure where it went, that said you couldn't just add a general purpose lane. If you were going to add a lane, it had to be a carpool lane or a toll lane or something else that encouraged a more efficient use of the roadways. And so that's the first half. The first half is what's going on besides adding lanes. And then the second half is, after the next 20 years, are our county is not going to be done requiring transportation improvements. So I assume that looking 20 years ahead, we're still going to be requiring Measure M 2050 funds and a whole string of new projects. Do you have people forecasting on that yet?
So let me mention first that OCTA has always looked at transportation as a multimodal set of responsibilities, right? In the current Measure M program, you have, which is only 50% of our budget, right? About half of our budget. The other half of our budget is bus, right? So which is not a Measure M funded program. It's got a separate quarter-cent sales tax for that. Measure M includes 43% for freeways, and these projects, as I mentioned, there are 13 projects broken into 30 segments, but they become 30 projects ultimately. So the freeways were a big deal, and paying attention to them, improving them, increasing capacity, absolutely, hadn't been done in quite some time, so they were at the top of the list for. That's why they get the bulk of the funds out of Measure M currently. But also streets and roads, very important to maintain the streets and roads, to turn back money to the cities to do that maintenance, to do signal synchronization projects, as I mentioned, and then transit. For example, the OC streetcar, right? And looking for opportunities to give people different transportation choices, as you mentioned. That would continue. Right now, that'll continue through 2041. We have a long-range transportation planning process. We're actually in the middle of developing the 2026 long-range transportation plan, sorry. And we'll be doing a second phase of outreach on that coming up later this month, the end of the month, and into next month, and that'll be an opportunity. We'll make sure that the council and the residents are aware of an opportunity to provide input on that. And that's where you can talk a lot about the priorities and needs that you see down the line. Could be the same priorities and needs that we have now, and that takes a multimodal approach as well. So we're always looking to it's not just freeways, that's what I should say.
I do have one follow-on comment. As our cars get more electrically intelligent and we develop they become connected to each other, you can have 8 cars running down the freeway like this and maybe not need more lanes, but maybe you fit more throughput in the same lanes.
Yeah, Councilman Connors, it sounds like you're on top of the technology. So yeah, there is work to do that. We track that, and that's what we'll continue to do in the long-range transportation plan. The result of that plan, by the way, feeds into SCAG's transportation planning document as well, and community sustainability plan. But we'll track that technology. We'll continue to track that technology, and ultimately probably get to a point where we can incorporate that and into it. Right now, it's not really available. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put in a plug for the city of Laguna Woods and our Measure M funds. I read recently some of the cities that get the Measure M funds are limiting the number of ride users they have. For instance, like we have the taxi program. Some of the cities, for whatever their reasons are, limit the number of trips that their residents can take with this money. And so for our residents in Laguna Woods, we are fortunate in that we have no limits on the number of taxi rides that you can take within a month period. So we have unlimited rides for our residents here. So thanks to OCTA for those Measure M funds, and as long as we keep getting those, we will continue to offer this service to our residents. So we are much
Certainly.
appreciative.
The city of Laguna Woods has always been a great partner with OCTA. We appreciate your support.
Thank you.
And most of those have been medical. Even though there are others, most of those really were medical.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, just the fact that we're able to not limit someone to 6 rides per month is really, I think, a great benefit for the city.
That's right.
Okay, so we have a recommendation to receive and file. Is there no other actions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So much for coming.
Thank you. Our next Item 4.3, 2026, do we have a speaker here? Women and Girls of Orange County report.
We don't have the speaker here, so
Okay.
I think we can
Table
move
it
on,
until next month, maybe?
unless you had comments you wanted to make on. I thought that you asked her first. She just asked if there were a speaker here, so there isn't. So
Okay.
did you want to entertain any discussion on the item or? No. Yeah.
Well, since she didn't come, I just wanted, there was, the agenda item is 2026 Women and Girls of Orange County report. And it actually is a very comprehensive report in our packet. And I did read through it, and some things really popped out at me in terms of women and girls in Orange County. And it breaks it down by race, ethnicity, education level. And it was really, really impressive. One of the things that stuck out for me is in terms of the population of African Americans, and that was the part that stuck out at me. Basically, in Orange County, the numbers have not changed over the years. Basically, 1% or a little over 1% of Orange County, and these are women and girls, and so the numbers have not changed very much. So I just wanted to commend the organization for such a really very in-depth program. The information that they sent was really good. They talked about independent care and elder care, and the percentage of elderly people that are caregivers, and the percentage of elderly women that are recipient of care by women. So it's a really comprehensive report, and hopefully we can bring this presenter another time to do a thorough report on this. Okay, so then we'll move right along. I've lost my spot. Give me just 1 second and I'll catch up with myself. Okay, so then we're down now to item 5, public comments on non-agenda items. And I'll turn it over to the city clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. About public comments on non-agenda items, this is the time and place for members of the public to address the City Council on items not appearing on this agenda. As a reminder, each speaker will have the opportunity to speak once for up to 3 minutes unless otherwise stipulated by the City Council. Please note that pursuant to state law, the City Council is unable to take action on or discuss items not appearing on this agenda, but may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by speakers. The City Council may also refer items to City staff for follow-up or response. Request that City staff report back to the City Council at a subsequent meeting concerning items, or direct City staff to place items on a future agenda.
Do we have any public comments? Any speakers for public comments?
Yes, I believe Vicki Johnson.
Vicki?
Hi, good afternoon, and it was great to have a transportation presentation, and I hope we have more. And I hope that the senior mobility program is continued to be funded and not restricted. And I don't know where the cannabis tax money is going, but it seems to me like that's a good match, that tax money into our senior mobility, and perhaps some more buses. The term limits, I've said many times now, I'm for term limits. It turns out Laguna Beach, they put it on the ballot through a lot of signatures, and the Laguna Beach Democratic Club is against term limits. So they're going to have a meeting tonight. I just hope, if it is on the ballot, that it's not politicized, and the Democratic Party of all groups, it's a club, would not be opposed to term limits. I've written to Chris, he's been very responsive. I've mentioned it a couple times. The flock cameras and drones, these surveillance tools we're seeing increasingly in use. I think drones 4,000 times used by Irvine in the sheriff's report that Chris sent me. I encourage us to drop the flock contract. City of Los Angeles just did. Some 90 cities, there are real civil liberties and surveillance problems with the flock cameras, and any defined uses of drones would be, I think, something we should try to work for, though we don't have direct control over that. I saw this building is listed as a cooling center. And I wonder how that's worked out in the past and will be big enough if we have a monster heat wave. And last thing, there is an electricity-related item on the agenda, but the Orange County Power Authority, which I thank you so much for turning that down, they charge 20 to 30% more for some municipal electricity accounts, 20 to 30% more than SCE. So it's just another good reason that not only are the residents not paying $25, $30 more per month for the Orange County Power Authority, that the municipal electricity would be being charged even more than SCE, 20 to 30% more. All right, thanks very much.
Thank you. Do we have more speakers? So we have no more speakers. So then the next item is item 6, the city treasurer report.
I will be giving the city treasurer's report today. Liz is out of the office this week, but she left me with some slides and some ability to answer your questions. Cash and investments for the month ending June 30th, the city had just under $15.5 million. Of that amount, the majority of it was in the general fund for operating purposes at just about $8.2 million. Just under $4.7 million is included in a variety of assigned reserves within the general fund. Special revenue funds, the majority of which are for public street purposes, totaled just over $2.6 million. Just to kind of connect this with the earlier presentation that we had from OCTA, special revenue funds is where the Measure M2 revenue resides within our budget. So what we currently have on hand from them is a significant component of that $2.6 million. Another significant component that's also transportation related is gas tax from the state. Those two sources combined account for the majority of that $2.6 million. Cash and cash equivalents, we had roughly 5% of the $15.5 million in cash and cash equivalents as of June 30th. A little bit under 56% of our funds were in pooled money investment accounts. That's both the state investment pool, LAIF, and CAMP. Investment earnings, or earning investments, we had roughly 40% of our funds in certificates of deposit. In the month of June, we had one certificate mature. That was a certificate with principal at $245,000. We reinvested that principal amount in a 60-month term CD at a 4.2% yield rate. Trust funds as of the end of June, our retiree medical trust fund and the pension liability trust fund both experienced small net losses of less than $200 each, had roughly $169,000 in the retiree medical trust fund and roughly $615,000 in the pension liability trust fund. I wanted to call your attention to a new report or a new document that's included in the city treasurer's report, and I want to credit Mayor Pro Tem Lee for this. Mayor Pro Tem Lee expressed an interest in being able to easily compare the current month to the prior month. And so Liz and I liked the idea of that, thought it would be useful information for the council. So in your agenda packet, there is a new monthly financial comparison report that takes all of the same information that's on the snapshot document that you're accustomed to receiving and graphically displays it against the same information for the month prior. So it compares the funds in the first half of the first page, investment types on the second half, and then the second page looks at the two trust funds and shows you the difference in earnings month to month, and then the gain and loss month to month. So it's really information that you were already receiving presented in kind of a consolidated visual manner for just an at-a-glance look at how the months compare. For most months, you'll see very little difference month to month. There will be a couple of months where you'll see more significant difference, primarily when we receive property tax payments. You'll see on the first page, those bar charts there, you'll see one month significantly higher than the other month, just because we've received the kind of two major increment payments of property tax. So having said all of that, there's an opportunity for public comments, and then staff's recommendation is that receive and file the city treasurer's report for the month of June 2026.
We are open for public comments. Any comments from the public on the report? Seeing none, public comments are closed. Any council comments? Yes, Councilor Horn.
I would just like to say, this is great sitting here hearing these numbers, but when you compare it, when you read articles about what other cities are doing, they don't reconcile their budgets, and they look at a fund and there's no money there. They thought there was more money there, but it's not, and they're in so much trouble in other places, and they're in deficit spending, they're not paying so we're very lucky here. So sitting here and hearing all these numbers is great, but they're really valuable numbers, and you can trust them because you know that when we give a report, these are the numbers that are actually there. And I want to commend Mayor Pro Tem Lee for suggesting this excellent addition to the financial report.
Thank you. Yeah.
I agree. In fact, I was thinking myself, I was sitting here thinking about a very good suggestion that you made, but I was also thinking we're seeing the results in South County, and many of the cities are in financial trouble. And our city isn't in financial trouble. We're paid on our pension fund. I looked at the state. The state, I think the fund itself is 85% funded, so it's still 15% below the state to the funding of all these pensions that are promised. So there's the state level. If you look at our city level, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was wondering if I should point it out again, this is very important to understand how well our city is maintained in the budget, that we are not behind in our payments to our pension funds, number one. And number two, we actually are putting money aside and planning and staying current with our expenses and not dipping into a fund and finding ourselves in trouble. And it's pretty common in the county. I agree. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Then, did we have the recommendation was to receive and file?
We'll take a motion.
We'll take a motion to receive.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries. Now we come to item 7, the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, would you read the?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. About the consent calendar, all items appearing on the consent calendar are considered by the city manager to be routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the city council or city staff requests that specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and consideration of action. Members of the public may address the city council on any item appearing on the consent calendar at the time the item is considered, regardless of whether or not the item has been removed from the consent calendar. Items that are removed from the consent calendar will be considered after the items remaining on the consent calendar.
Can I get a motion for the consent?
I'll second.
It's moved in second. All in favor? No opposed. So the consent calendar is accepted. The next item is public hearings. Do we have any public?
No public hearings today.
We have no public hearings today. Woo-hoo. The next item is item 9, city council business, and I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you very much. The first item of business today it relates to the city-owned streetlights within United Laguna Hills Mutual. So, as the agenda report went into a little bit of detail on, the city owns 188 streetlights that are physically located within the United Laguna Hills Mutual community. All of those streetlights are located on named streets, so streets like Avenida Sevilla. We do not maintain any of the streetlights that are located within cul-de-sacs. If there's ever a question on what the city is responsible for, there is a sticker on each of our streetlights that identifies the streetlight number and includes our logo and phone number to report outages. So there's an example of that sticker on the screen in front of you. These 188 streetlights date back to 2001 when the city entered into an agreement with United to assume payment responsibility, maintenance, and operation of those streetlights. Subsequent to that, in September of 2002, the city and United Mutual entered into a purchase, an actual transaction of those streetlights, which conveyed ownership of them to the city. The agreement, again, dates back to 2001. What we are here today to talk about is a proposed amendment to that agreement. The agreement has not been amended up to this point, so it has been the exact same since 2001 all the way through 2026. In this amendment, the city and United would agree to a variety of clarifications to language within the existing agreement. Your agenda report goes into a little bit more detail on this, but I wanted to highlight two of those clarifications that I think really speak to the tone of the clarification. Both parties would acknowledge a couple of things that have been really central to the agreement since it was entered into. First, we would explicitly acknowledge that the city did not design or construct the original streetlights, and so the city doesn't have liability for claims related to the placement, design, or construction of those streetlights. In 2001, the idea was that the city was taking ownership, maintenance, and operation responsibility for streetlights that already existed in the condition and location that they existed in at the time. So likewise, the parties also would explicitly acknowledge that the city has an obligation to operate and maintain those lights, but not an obligation to improve or maintain a certain level of lighting beyond that which was existing at the time that they were purchased in 2001. There is an exception in there for the next part of the amendment, which is that the city would agree within 36 months of entering into this proposed amendment to retrofit all 188 streetlights with LED lamps. Those are light emitting diode lamps, so if you drive out there right now, the color of the light is kind of a orangey tone. The LED lamps will be a brighter white light like you see in really most of Third. They have previously retrofitted lights that they purchased from Southern California Edison. These retrofits would be paid for by the city at no cost to United. We anticipate that the cost to the city will be less than $100,000. It would be funded from the general fund. So these streetlights are unique in that the streetlights themselves are not located on public streets. So because they're not a part of the public street system, we're not able to use, for instance, the Measure M2 money that we just heard about to make these improvements. If the streetlights were on public streets, we would be able to. So these improvements would be funded from the general fund using general fund revenue sources, which to Vicky's point earlier, would include things like cannabis business tax revenue. We anticipate that if the amendment is approved, we would complete the retrofits in the next 2-year budget cycle. So we have just started the second year of our existing 2-year budget cycle. We would add this to our capital improvement program and schedule it for some time in the 2027 to 2029 budget cycle. We anticipate that we would pair these LED retrofits with other anticipated streetlight maintenance We know, for instance, that we have a need in the next couple of years to replace the photo cells on the streetlights to make sure that they're operable at the right times of day. So we would look to consolidate some of that maintenance together and tackle as much as we can in one fell swoop. The amendment also includes new language that provides United with the ability to purchase the streetlights from the city at any time for $1. If United exercised its option to purchase the streetlights, which I can imagine being a conversation if they wanted to make more significant improvements to the streetlights, if they wanted to replace the streetlights, modify the arms of the streetlights, change something physically about the streetlights. The $1 would be the purchase price, and then the city would cease to have the operation and maintenance responsibilities once that transaction was finalized. There's no obligation for United to exercise this, but they do have the option to purchase the streetlights if they wanted to. I view this as a real win-win for everyone. The city has had an interest in clarifying the language in these agreements for quite some time. United has an interest in bringing LED lighting to its community. United's a little bit unique as compared to the lights that we own in 3rd and GRF, that really the entirety of the street lighting on the named streets within United is owned by the city. So this is the vehicle through which those lights would be made brighter and modernized. There's an opportunity for public comments today, and then staff's recommendation is to approve a First Amendment to the Streetlight Maintenance and Operation Agreement with United Laguna Hills Mutual, and authorize the mayor to execute the First Amendment subject to approval as to form by the city attorney. And then number 2, direct the city manager to include funding in the proposed fiscal years 2027 to 29 budget for the retrofit of 188 city-owned streetlights within United Laguna Hills Mutual with light-emitting diode LED lamps, as contemplated by the First Amendment to the Streetlight Maintenance and Operation Agreement with United Laguna Hills Mutual. I'll note before we open it up for public comments that the United Board has reviewed and approved this amendment, so it is simply waiting on City Council approval at this point. With that, I would suggest taking any public comments, and then I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any additional information.
We are open for public comments, and I see we have one, Ann Beltram. 3? Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm here on behalf of a group of people who are very interested in energy conservation in Laguna Woods and United especially. And it was several months ago that a group of us came here and sat in that corner with Chris, and we had a laundry list of things, and one of our members spoke up and said, "Why don't we get LED lights?" And Chris then patiently explained a long, almost 20-year story of what has stood in the way of that happening. He said it was like Groundhog Day, that every few years somebody from the boards would show up and say, "How come you're not giving us LED lights?" And he'd say, "Well, this is what needs to happen with this contract." And they'd go away and they'd never come back. However, this time, it turns out that we have the excellent Charlie Prater as our United president. And no sooner did I leave the meeting, call Charlie, than he took the ball and ran with it and negotiated it through the board process. And he's just been terrific in his leadership on this energy issue, as has Chris. So I think we're very fortunate to have this little milestone and turning point, and I urge your support of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mike. I'm just going to call you Mike because I don't want to mess up your last name.
Call me Mike. Rough. Thank you. Actually, I worked at Hewlett-Packard Labs with a guy who held about 60 patents on LEDs and, in fact, invented the term optoelectronics. So I have some minor connection there. Good friend of mine. They're very efficient electrically. They last a long time. But I have to say, this question of intensifying the brightness at night, I'm not sure I want that. I like feeling that I'm walking at night. I like the yellowish cast the lights have today when I go walking through the streets. I like that. Now, I say this with some hesitation. I know that LEDs can be adjusted for color as well, but those could be pretty weird colors. If you could get a tone that's sort of like soft yellow, which is what we experience now, or I do, as I go walking at night, and I do often, I would really appreciate that. So if you have any illumination on that comment, I'd like to see it, so to speak. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Our next speaker is Bill Walsh.
Good afternoon. Streetlights, near and dear to my life.
Yes.
Living in Laguna Woods. Chris, a couple of questions. Does the tariff rate change when you change the LED lights? Does it change for the city to LS2? Oh, okay. When Third changed out the 788 street lights to LED lights, basically, they bought the poles and they bought the light fixtures and the wiring in the pole. SCE is going to be responsible, I assume, for the wiring to the pole, even in United. I don't know if that's true, but we can work that out. I mean, you can find that out. The other thing that you should all know, a lot of you probably have heard of Project 2045. Edison, based on the last, since 2019, is going to be spending $6 billion a year to modernize their grid, which entails 50,000 square miles of service area, 15 counties, and about 15 million people. That $6 billion are going to keep going back to the CPUC to get rate increases. And if you look at the history of rate increases at the CPUC, streetlights always take a hit. They're increased. So if we can get the rate down, the tariff down, it'll also reduce the impact of billing to the city. So the city hopefully can save some money. Third Mutual, by estimate, and I haven't looked at the figures in years, but when we started out, we were saving about $40,000 to $50,000 a year on those 788 streetlights from tariffs, okay? Now, taking ownership of those lights also forced, Third Mutual to take control of the poles, and people tend to run into those sometimes, and they have to be replaced, but that's part of, the cost of doing business. So my comment is, I think the city will save money if the tariff rate changes when the city takes over and puts in LED lighting. So I'm totally in favor of this, because one of the major reasons that Third changed those to LED lights is they got tired of watching people walking around the streets with miners' caps on and flashlights, okay? And so I'm all for more brightness. I'm losing, my eyesight isn't as good as it was 20 years ago. Most people in our community, it isn't, and my time's up. So anyway, thank you.
Any other public comment? Vicki, come on up.
Hi, thank you. What a surprisingly peculiar arrangement, so I'm glad that you're moving forward on this. I definitely would check with Edison. There are a lot of programs to help with energy efficiency. Maybe there's some programs to assist with this. And the LED lights, potentially, it could have a small solar panel, and also the tuning of the color of the light. And it could be even more advanced options than just replacing the LED. It's some fixed configuration. And I would like a little sense of what is the potential cost savings? And is it to the city or is it to United? Thank you.
Any other public comments before I close public comments? Okay, public comments are closed. Did you want to respond to the comments?
Sorry, I can briefly respond. Comments about the color of the light. The amendment contemplates that though the city will ultimately decide what lamps get installed, that we will consult with United in that process. And so we can certainly have a conversation about the brightness and the color of lights, see if United has a particular thought on that. But again, that's something, we haven't got to that point yet. This is just the framework of the deal, but certainly not something I'm opposed to looking at. On the, Bill had a comment about the extent to what we own. So these lights are unique. They're different than the lights in Third that they purchased, in that these lights were never owned by Edison. So we actually are responsible for everything from the lamp down to the pole, into the ground, and the wiring back to the panel, or I'm sure there's a better term for it, but we have the entire responsibility. These were never SCE lights. They were constructed by United or one of the preceding groups. As far as the tariff rate, we haven't really looked at that. So when we retrofitted our street lights with LED lights, we did realize a cost savings over time. Obviously with this one, we've got the capital investment in it, so any cost savings would kind of take a while to break even with the retrofit cost. But it's something that might exist out there. I will say that we spend very little on residential street lighting. So between the 188 lights in United, the 31 lights that we continue to have responsibilities for in Third, and the 5 lights that we have responsibility for in GRF, our all-in budget for the current year, including both the cost of electricity and then the maintenance and repair of those lights, is just under $60,000. So we're not spending a significant amount on these lights. It's possible that there will be a tariff-related savings in there, but I'm not approaching this as a cost savings for the city. I think there are other benefits that are important. If we end up with a cost savings, that would be great. That cost savings, to Vicky's point, would be for the city. United doesn't pay for these streetlights, so the city bears the cost of operating and maintaining them, including paying Edison for the electricity for the lights themselves. So I think that answers the questions that were asked.
Okay, did the council had comments?
I just want to congratulate Chris and the president of United. I mean, this has been a long time, years, 20 years in the making, and residents have been periodically coming up and wanting these better streetlights. So I'm really, really glad that Charlie pushed it through, and I hope that Third and GRF do the same thing. It makes sense. It makes sense, and I really, my hat's off to you to have the tenacity to stick with it that long. So thank you, everybody, for all the efforts that you put in from all the different locations. Thank you.
I did have a question for clarification. You said when you were listing out the number, you said these are the numbers of the named streets. So does that imply that there's like some places where there's a light and no name?
When we refer to named streets, we're talking about everything except cul-de-sacs.
Okay.
So Avenida Sevilla is a named street, but if cul-de-sac 7 is located off Avenida Sevilla, we don't have any lights in the cul-de-sac.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Of comments, and I'm glad that we did recognize. I'm telling you, the legalities of this were the biggest issue, and to have United, pardon me, leadership, and for everyone who is involved. Boy, you deserve a lot on that. I've watched this play out for so long. The council has always been in favor of being efficient and not wasting, but there were these technicalities, and I'm not going to go into them. Those who understand it get it. But there is one other part. It shows you how everything we do is a trade-off. And we're trading off going to LEDs, but there are issues with LEDs too. They're pollinator issues. And when we talk about this, so we have people who have their broad spectrums of attitudes and feelings towards everything we do, and I just want to make sure we're all understanding where this goes, that the effect of pollinators and wildlife with LEDs is a questionable situation. So these are the trade-offs that we have in everything that we do. We have to be thinking about how it's not just this looks good, let's do that. There are all these unintended consequences. So while I'm very, very pleased, and it's interesting on this, you brought up the grid issue of what's going on, Bill did, and I happened to read something today because I'm sure we're all talking about the data centers, and it's like those data center people, but we're using the data centers. Look in the mirror. When you get upset with the data centers, look in the mirror and think to yourself, how many times have you gone on your computer and asked a question? Because every time you did that, you're affecting the data centers. And all the photographs that you're storing in iCloud, those are in data centers. Those are all of that. So it's us. These are all of the effects, and I hope we stop and think how all of this affects, because I was looking at the amount of energy used by a data center, and it pointed out that even that number doesn't cover the true cost because the power plant had to produce greater power, and that power isn't counted in the data center power, so that number is even bigger. I just wanted to point this out, how complicated and complex all of this is, and every time we think we're solving one problem, there's some unintended consequences. Thank you.
Seeing no other council comments, what are we supposed to do here?
We can take a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
I'll second it.
Moved in second. All in favor? Aye. No opposed. Motion carries. So now, thank you, Chris. Now we're at agenda item 9.2, Orange County Grand Jury Report.
Indeed we are. Give me just one moment here. So, a little bit of background. We have two grand jury reports that the City Council is being asked to respond to today. I'm going to give a slightly longer presentation on the first one with some background on it, and then assume that you don't need that background repeated for the second one. So in California, grand juries are a little bit different than they are when we're talking about like federal grand juries or trial juries. Grand juries in California are impaneled by counties. So there's a grand jury for the county of Los Angeles, there's a grand jury for the county of Orange, etc. And they have two types of responsibilities. They do have the criminal indictment responsibility that you see on Law and Order and other TV shows. And then they have the second wing where they spend most of their time on civil investigations. So those civil investigation responsibilities, you can think of them as like watchdog responsibilities. The grand jury has broad authority to investigate any number of governmental issues related to the county. Those can relate to the county itself, they can relate to cities, they can relate to school districts, special districts, all sorts of levels of government. The grand juries themselves decide what they investigate. So they, at the beginning of their one-year term, they meet, they reach some internal consensus about what issues they want to look into. And then they spend the year investigating that issue. And at the end or towards the end of their one-year term, they issue reports. When those reports relate to government agencies, they often require or request that certain government agencies respond to the report. So this is a very routine activity. If you look back through years and years of council meetings, you'll see that typically this July or August meeting, the city council responds to whatever grand jury reports we've been asked to respond to. One of the quirks of this whole process is grand juries are seated for 1 year. So by the time they release their reports and then the 90-day window elapses for government agencies to respond to it, the grand jury who wrote the report is not actually still in office. So the reports are sent to the presiding judge of the Superior Court. We copy the grand jury, the new grand jury, on that report, and then per state law, the reports are on file with the county, they get filed with the state archivist, but there's often very little or no follow-up to the responses that public agencies provide. State law is very particular on how we are able to respond to grand jury reports. So the reports are separated into two different categories of required responses. There are required responses to findings that the grand jury makes, and then there are required responses to recommendations for specific actions that the grand jury makes. For findings, public agencies are required to either agree with the finding, disagree wholly with the finding, or disagree partially with the finding. If we disagree wholly or partially, we are required to provide an explanation as to why. When it comes to recommendations, we have a little bit more in the way of options. We can either say that that specific recommendation was already implemented here. We can say that it will be implemented. If we do that, we're required to provide a time frame for implementation. We're allowed to respond and say that that recommendation requires further analysis. When we do that, we're required to explain what the analysis is, provide a timeline for the analysis, and that timeline can't be more than 6 months from the due date of the response. And then we have the option to say that the recommendation will not be implemented. If we say it won't be implemented, we have to say it's either because it's not warranted, i.e. it's not necessary, or it won't be implemented because it's not reasonable. So there's very prescribed formats here. This is all in the California Penal Code. Oftentimes cities will add additional commentary to their responses, but at the very highest level, we have to pick one from those categories. I want to note that we are one of very few cities that actually has an archive of our grand jury reports available on our website. So if you go to lagunawoods.gov/grand-jury-responses, you can get to it through other means on the site as well. You'll actually see all of the grand jury reports the city has been required to respond to since its incorporation in 1999. The copy of the report itself, and then the copy of the responses that the city has provided. Just wanted to highlight that. This first report relates to wildfires. It's titled Wildfires Hit Home. All cities in Orange County are required to respond to this report. In addition to that, the Orange County Board of Supervisors is required to respond, and the Orange County Fire Authority's Board of Directors is required to respond. For the city itself, we're required to respond to 6 specific findings and 3 specific recommendations no later than August 18th. We have included a proposed response to the report in the agenda packet. I'm not planning to go through that in detail, but if you want to ask any questions or chat about it, I'm happy to do so. I think our responses for this one are pretty straightforward. We agree with several of the findings. We have some clarifying notes in there, disagree partially with 2 of the findings. And then the recommendations, one of them we've already implemented, and the other 2 we recommend declining to implement for the reasons stated in the letter that we've drafted. Opportunity for public comments today. Because this report relates to wildfires, if you're interested in hearing from the Fire Authority, they're able to comment as well. The Fire Authority's Board of Directors already approved a response to this grand jury report, which we did review in drafting our response. And then after public comments, our recommendation is to approve a response to the 2025-2026 Orange County Grand Jury Report, Wildfires Hit Home, authorize the mayor to execute the response, and direct the city manager to submit the response as required by applicable law. I'll turn it over to the mayor for public comments.
Public comments are now open. Do we have anybody? Vicky, come on up. And anyone else who wants to make comments, you can just come after
Right,
Vicky.
thanks. Well, this is very interesting. The Orange County Power Authority was the subject of a county grand jury inquiry. And is there some deficiency? I mean, there's some problem, right? Or they would not have done this grand jury report. Can you just summarize what's the main problem that that they've cited? Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing no other public comments are closed. Did you have a response to that, Chris?
Yeah, I hesitate to speak for the grand jury. From reading the report, I think that they believe that there are opportunities for more outreach and public education when it comes to wildfire preparedness and mitigation. Beyond that, I mean, I think they recognize that wildfires are an increasing problem in California, but I don't know that there's like one specific issue that they've decided they wanted to address. I can share that like one of the things that we disagreed in there, they acknowledge that the Orange County Fire Authority provides fire services for 20-something agencies. The grand jury felt it would be beneficial for each city to have its own wildfire prevention and education program in addition to what the Fire Authority offers. I think we have some concerns with that. The Fire Authority is our fire department. It doesn't seem to be efficient to offer duplicative education programs, but so the grand jury had some comments in that vein of ways that we might increasingly reach out to the public. They had some recommendations related to an annual wildfire preparedness fair that they'd like to see, which we don't necessarily disagree with, but the way the recommendation is structured, it wasn't possible for us to really agree with it because we can't compel other government agencies to participate in such a fair. But yeah, I guess I would say like the main problem was just people should be more aware of the increasing risk of wildfires and the things that they can do to keep themselves safe as a result.
Any council comments?
Yeah, I thought your response was very well written. And I agree that the one thing in there that they did not seem to address at all was HOAs. And there's hundreds and hundreds in Orange County that they didn't address at all. And seeing as they were doing one on housing at the same time, you would think they would have done something like that. But
yeah, I can just kind of add some commentary to that. That one of the things that one of the responses, they reference a program that the state legislature created to assist with home hardening. When the state legislature creates programs like that, they often omit homeowners associations from being eligible for the funding. And this is a problem that exists not just with respect to wildfire mitigation, but really across the board, that they view homeowners associations as having the ability to raise money through assessments to provide these services. And so they don't view, even if the entire community is made up of older adults on restricted incomes, they don't really acknowledge that in the same way as they target these programs towards single-family homeowners who might be on limited incomes or older adults. Their eligibility is elevated, but when you're a part of an HOA, you don't get the same consideration. So we did call out that the home hardening program that they speak favorably of it's a good program. It hasn't started yet, but it's a good concept of a program. But unfortunately, it won't benefit Laguna Woods homeowners because of the nature of homeownership here.
Thank you. Any other council comments? So then we have a motion to
I'll move the recommendation.
move. It's moved in second. All in favor? No opposed? So it carries. The next one is 9.4, transit shelter and street.
No, we're still on 9.3. Sorry, there's a second grand jury report.
Okay.
This report relates to housing. So this report's titled California Housing Mandates, the Unintended Reshaping of Orange County Neighborhoods. We are among 21 cities that are required to respond to this report, in addition to the Board of Supervisors, the Orange County Council of Governments, which is referred to as OCOG, and the Southern California Association of Governments, which is referred to as SCAG. In this case, we were required to respond to 11 findings and 8 recommendations. This report was issued slightly after the previous wildfire report, so we have a little bit longer to respond until August 27th. As was the case with the previous report, we've included a draft response in your agenda packet. This report, I don't know that it really plowed any new ground, so to speak, but it speaks to concerns that have been expressed pretty widely about the impact of what the grand jury refers to as housing mandates, but what they really mean are state housing laws, and the impact that those have on both local communities and the production of housing as a whole. There have been a lot of think pieces, reports. There was a recent state audit also on this topic. So this kind of fits into that in trying to chart maybe a more productive path forward on housing development. For this one, we agreed with some of the findings. We disagreed with some findings that I think were written a little bit overbroad. For instance, there's a finding that says that residents in Orange County consistently express certain views that can generally be viewed as like critical of the impact of state housing laws on local communities. We disagreed with that, not because we don't agree that some people feel that way, but because certainly not everyone feels that way. Recommendation-wise, the recommendations were interesting. The grand jury seems to believe that if the city or if cities participate in OCOG and SCAG to greater extents, that somehow the impact of housing mandates would be mitigated. I don't personally share that opinion. OCOG and SCAG are responsible for various levels of implementation of state housing law, but the housing mandates that the grand jury is referring to really are housing laws adopted by the legislature. And not to be dismissive of the grand jury's report, but the state legislature doesn't so much care whether cities participate in OCOG or SCAG. They're going to do what they're going to do. So we have some differences of opinion there. We had implemented already at least one of the recommendations. The balance of them we declined to implement for a variety of reasons. Partly because we have a housing element that went through state review and includes a whole host of programs that we're required to implement in this housing space. And so we are committed to seeing that through, appreciate the grand jury's 2 cents, but right now it seems to make the most sense to focus on the work plan that's been approved by the state. Having said that, I would turn it back over to the mayor for any public comments, and then happy to respond to any questions as well.
Public comments are now open on the housing mandates. Seeing no public comments, are closed. Any council comments?
I do.
Use your mic.
Put together the previous ones. I thought they were right on task, and you really hit them. I have a couple of, I'm not quite on board for F6. F6 says that there, and I agree with your statement about the OCOG and SCAG thing, but on F6, and I think that's on, do you find that one? It's page 1 of 4, okay. F6, it is a, I guess I'm not totally disagreeing with what they're saying, because that is part of the problem in F6, and actually that, it turns out again with F7, that this issue of the state telling cities how they operate in cities is a very growing problem. And if we separate ourselves from saying we support those other groups, I'm not sure that.
Yeah, I'm happy to comment on those. So
would you go ahead?
Yeah, so several of these findings, it's not necessarily that we disagree with them at the staff level, it's the way that the finding is written. So F6 says arena allocations are unrealistic and not attainable within the current planning cycle due to limited available land, built-out urban conditions, infrastructure complaints, environmental factors, and public health and safety requirements. That's what the grand jury said. So though we use the term disagree partially, because again, that's one of the limited options there, the next sentence says, for the city of Laguna Woods, the factors referenced in this finding are generally true. However, and then we go on to identify that there are a couple of additional factors that we think are important to note. So our goal is not to disagree with it because we think that what they said is false. We didn't want to fully agree with it because there are other factors that I think are meaningful. So we tried to, the only, in that penal code section, the only option if we don't fully agree with it is to disagree with it. So we disagreed partially, but then tried to say, we don't really disagree with it, we just want to add to it.
Okay,
so that's part of, for F6, that's part of where we went. And the two factors that we added to it, what they didn't include in their list of really like obstacles to housing production. In Laguna Woods, the two things that have occurred here are maybe there's developers interested, but the property owner isn't. And this is something I think the state glosses over when it comes to housing laws, is they assume that if housing isn't built, local government is somehow to blame for it. But at the end of the day, decisions whether to construct housing or not are made by property owners and developers. And some property owners just don't want to build housing on their property. That's well within their right to make that decision. But I think the state kind of generally fails to acknowledge it. The grand jury didn't include it in that list of things, and so I thought it was important to highlight it. The other thing that has happened, and this, I'll try to explain this in a way that isn't like getting super into the weeds, but state housing law required when we adopted the housing element that for each of the potential housing opportunity sites, we identify a minimum and a maximum density. And so the practical challenge to that, and I'll say too that this is shared by developers. Minimum densities preclude certain types of housing development. So we had a developer, after we adopted our housing element, contact us expressing interest in developing a particular property, one of our housing opportunity sites for housing. But what the developer wanted to build was a townhome product that would have been below the minimum density that the state required us to zone the property for. So we had to tell the developer, though they want to build housing at this location and they might have a property owner who's interested in allowing it, we cannot allow it because they're not building enough units there. There's a whole disconnect there that at some point, some housing is better than no housing, right? So I wanted to highlight that there, that minimum density requirement, which is very much on people's minds and I suspect will be changed before we get to the 7th cycle housing element update, is a real impediment to development. And just kind of to finish that thought, the reason that some developers want to build at lower densities is because of the cost involved. When you go over 3 stories, you switch from wood frame construction to steel frame construction. It gets much more expensive. And so there's obviously still a need for 3-story products, right? For townhomes and condos and those sorts of builds. But for us, we had to say, thanks, but no thanks. And that, to me, that fundamentally makes no sense. So I wanted to highlight that as, again, something in addition to what the grand jury said. On F7, which is the, I'm sorry, go ahead, yeah.
Just on F6, before we go on, is it possible to say the City of Laguna Woods agrees partially with this finding regard to its own jurisdiction, period, and take out the rest of that sentence?
Well, so the only, the grand jury's reports often are written in a way that kind of suggest that cities should comment on other cities' affairs. And so, yes, it's your response. You can take out anything you want to. The reason that we included and notes that it lacks the information and firsthand knowledge to opine on other jurisdictions is just because generally I try to avoid responding in a way that has us casting judgment on other cities and what the situations might be in their jurisdiction. So you can certainly take it out. I just put it in as kind of a reminder that all we're responding to is how this finding relates to us in particular.
It sounds...
I don't have any problem with taking it out. It's completely a council
It's just something
decision,
I guess I would
but-
think on that one.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead with F7?
Yeah.
You-
F7. So F7 is also one where I think the grand jury, I get what they're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I think they paint with an overly large brush. So F7 says residents in Orange County consistently express a desire for local planning decisions to reflect community priorities, including but not limited to neighborhood character, safety considerations, and environment and open space preservation. Our proposed response is the City of Laguna Woods disagrees partially with this finding. While some residents in Orange County share the sentiments identified in this finding, others do not. There is a diversity of opinion regarding the extent to which quote unquote community priorities should factor into housing-related planning decisions. So I don't at all disagree that residents in Orange County express the sentiments in that finding. I just think the finding's written in a way that suggests that residents only express those sentiments. And certainly there are a great number of residents, we heard this through our own housing process, right? Where people came out and they were concerned about the possibility of like higher rise construction next to their existing single or 2-story construction. That's definitely a concern. There are other people who I think would generally describe themselves as more of housing advocates, the YIMBY types, that don't see that as a concern, that see it as a necessary progression of neighborhoods in order to accommodate additional housing. So I just, this one kind of splits the line, but I just felt like F7 was attempting to get us to agree that everyone believes that local planning decisions should take into account things like neighborhood character. If this finding was written with a period after community priorities and struck out the including, I would tend to agree with it because I think neighbors who were concerned about community character would view that as a community priority, and housing advocate types who felt like density was essential to solving affordability crises would view that as a community priority. Where I have an issue with it is when it says including but not limited to, and then specifically the term neighborhood character, because that really is something that's associated with the balance between the build of the existing community and the new community. There are people who have no problem with the idea of multifamily housing being built in the middle of a single family residential neighborhood. And there are other people who feel like that completely compromises neighborhood character. So anyway, I was just trying to not have us be on the record as saying all residents in Orange County think this one way. I wanted to be respectful of the fact that people have a lot of different opinions when it comes to housing. So that was my thinking behind it. But again, it's the council's response. So if you want to tweak it, feel free to.
No, I thought you did a very good job. In any of these things, there are all these unintended consequences. If we think, oh, we're just going to do this one thing, what we're seeing is concentration of wealth, and concentration of wealth comes when you lose single housing family, you go to density. Those are usually owned by corporations and hedge funds and so forth. So you wind up, what if you're thought the way to wealth in our country is to start by owning your house. Owning your house is a sign of wealth. We kind of take it for granted, but it is a sign of wealth. And once you have less people owning their homes, what you're really doing then is concentrating wealth, because all those people who don't and can't own their homes, because now where they would have been in their own homes are now in these larger conglomerations, they don't own their homes. They're renters for life. And you've changed a dynamic, and you have to think about it. There are probably a lot of opinions right here, right now over what I'm saying, but I really appreciate when we understand there are lots of ideas on things, and we have to understand the unintended consequences of thinking that one solution fits everything. There are unintended consequences, and I really appreciate what you did on this, so I guess I will leave it at what you've said. I get your argument, and I think you're right. It's understanding all the various points of views in this kind of thing is what you have to do. Keep your mind open, and we have to share our points of view.
We have
Thank
to,
you.
as a society, we have to get away from the binary, there's either right or wrong, right? There are lots of situations where that might be true, but on complex policy issues like this, there are shades of gray in there. So yes, I agree.
On that thought, on the complexity, if I could make one other quick comment. I was thinking about your job because we recently had some things involving that. And I was thinking about, since I have been on this council, and I imagine even since you've been on, how much more complex your job has become, even though the population didn't grow. We still have the same population, basically, but how much more complex, do you think about that sometimes? Because the reason I'm saying that, I just read something that really fascinated me. The number of Gen Z people who are eating in their cars. At lunchtime, they're going out and eating in the car, some of them 3 times a week. And why are they going to their cars to just close themselves in the car when ordinarily you would have eaten in your where you worked? Because they want to get some time to themselves. And I thought, wow, that's a sign to me of complexity. And I'll let you respond to that. Thank you for
100%.
this.
I mean, May was 19 years for me here. So I've spent a lot of time in Laguna Woods. And yeah, when I started, and I'm looking at Yoli because Yoli started around the same time. I want to say we had 6 full-time employees, maybe. It was very, very small. And honestly, though things weren't, they're never necessarily perfect, we were able to get by on that. I can't fathom being able to do that now because the workload, and I think to your point, it's largely driven by changes in state law. The world has gotten very complex. On housing alone, just because that's the topic before us, if you look back, this is our 6th cycle for the housing element. If you look back at our housing elements for preceding cycles, they are way shorter, way simpler. The analysis is a lot more direct. We've started looking ahead to the next housing element update cycle and just the ways that we have to further parse and get more specific and detailed with the analysis. It'll be a considerable amount of work, a much heavier lift than the current cycle. And the current cycle was already like a 300% lift greater than the previous cycle. So it's, the world changes, right? We evolve along with it, but certainly things have gotten much more complex over time. I agree.
I just wanted to thank Councilmember Moore for your question and for pointing out those responses. When I first read it, I thought, this is a great response. This is a great response. And then when you asked the question, then I started to think more broadly. But then when you answered it, I still stayed with my same first response was that it was a great response. So the response was great, and your feedback also was great. So if there are, let's see, what are we here? Receive and file, do we get a motion to receive?
Sorry, it'll be a motion to approve the staff recommendation, which is to approve the response, authorize the signature, and submit it.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. No opposed? Okay, so now we are at 9.4.
All right, so now we are at item 9.4, transit shelter and street furniture project. All of the visuals that I'm going to show you today, they're also in your agenda packet. I want to introduce this item by saying that this is an existing project in your capital improvement program. It's currently identified as a partially funded project. We have some funding for it. We have a placeholder amount for construction purposes, but really until we finalize a design, we can't finalize a construction budget. So this project has been around for a couple of years. Just high-level background. When you drive around Laguna Woods and you're on Moulton or El Toro, you will come across green transit shelters at bus stops. And then you'll come across green street furniture as well, sometimes paired with the transit shelter, sometimes not. The vast majority of the street furniture and all of the transit shelters are provided to the city through a franchise agreement with Clear Channel Outdoor. Clear Channel Outdoor is an advertising company, so you'll note that the existing transit shelters have advertising panels on them. The franchise agreement provides Clear Channel Outdoor with an exclusive right to provide transit shelter advertising in the city. It's been a long-term franchise agreement for the city. The term of the franchise agreement is set to end on December 31st of 2027. And so this project has been timed to align with the anticipated expiration of that franchise agreement. We are anticipating that the franchise agreement will not be renewed either because Clear Channel Outdoor will not be interested in doing so under terms agreeable to the city or potentially at all. And that's largely driven by just a change in advertising, right? The money that used to be in transit shelter advertising has really dropped off. People are advertising online. They're doing a lot more interesting things than advertising at bus stops. So with that franchise agreement scheduled to come to an end, we've thought that this is a good opportunity to replace the transit shelters and street furniture with something that is more aesthetically aligned with Laguna Woods and better satisfies our community needs, including accessibility. So there's funding in the budget currently for the design of this project. We wanted to take some time today to show you where we're at on it. We're not looking for any specific vote on anything in particular. Your feedback would be fine. We just wanted to use this opportunity to check in with you, see if you're comfortable with the direction that we're going, and then we'll talk about what our next steps would be. So there is a conceptual design included in your agenda packet. We've identified two design concepts. So across Moulton and El Toro, we have roughly 25 transit stops. Not all of those have transit shelters. Some of them only have furniture. And that's really because not every stop is created the same. Sidewalk widths vary, and so the transit shelter, the full structure with the roof and the advertising panel, takes up a considerable amount of space on the sidewalk. We need to make sure that we're maintaining pedestrian clearance on the sidewalk. So in many cases, the transit stop either just has furniture, which is a smaller footprint, or there are some stops where there really is no furniture either. You'll see the OCTA pole with the information on the bus stop or the bus routes, but not a whole lot else. So as we've approached this project, we recognized that because not every stop is created the same, we needed to come up with two design concepts. A primary stop that we could use for higher traffic locations. All of our higher traffic locations have sufficient room for a primary stop.
Yeah.
There are a number of locations where there is very, very little use. At those lower traffic locations and at space constrained locations, we thought it made sense to propose a secondary stop that was a smaller scale. It is generally shorter and narrower than the primary stop. The secondary stop is about 11 inches shorter, or narrower, I should say, and it's about 4.5 feet shorter than the primary stop. So, yeah, I know. So right now we don't have it inventoried by primary and secondary. The majority of the 25 stops have some level of furniture, maybe the transit shelter with it. But yes, it's kind of a legacy thing where bus routes typically have stops at both sides of signalized intersections, which already increases the number a fair amount. But yeah, there's roughly 25 transit stops. Some of those stops have been discontinued over time, so we are reconciling OCTA's ridership data to try to get both a current list of stops, but also a ridership over several years so that we're making informed decisions. But yeah, there's about 25 stops. Both designs are comparable to each other. They both lack advertising. From staff's perspective, we think that's a significant aesthetic improvement. Not that we don't enjoy fast food advertisements and swap meet advertisements and whatnot on the transit shelters, but we think this presents an opportunity to do away with the advertising component. They incorporate stucco, red tile, and dark brown elements to generally be consistent with the materials used here at City Hall. One of the things that would be true if we end or allow the existing franchise agreement to expire, the city would become responsible for maintaining the bus stops. We don't currently do that. And I say that with some hesitation. There's a level of maintenance that the existing franchisee provides. There are other times where our maintenance crew has to go out there and empty trash, pick up something that someone's dumped there, return shopping carts. So there's a level of maintenance that we are already doing, but we would become fully responsible for it after this project. So because of that, we've tried to both design stops and select materials with ease of maintenance and durability in mind. Transit shelters sometimes get hit by cars. They often get vandalized. We've tried to approach this through the lens of we want the shelters to be up as much as possible, so we want to be able to repair them as quickly as possible. So we've tried to avoid like specialty materials or things with long lead times. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of plan sheets, and then we have some renderings as well. Again, these are in your agenda packet. This is a side-by-side comparison of the design concept for the primary stop versus the secondary stop. The primary stop, the biggest difference is it is a little bit wider, it is longer, and it does have a shade covering over it. The secondary stop, because of the proportions, there's not really a logical way to add the shade covering without, I think, really creating kind of a strange design where you would have something protruding a great distance from a much narrower base. The primary stop also includes a space within it for individuals to stand or lean under the shade structure, or for wheelchairs to locate themselves under the shade structure, which is an improvement from the shelters we have in place right now. The smaller secondary stop includes the same lighting, it includes the same finish treatment. It has a shorter bench and just generally, again, trying to shrink it into a space-constrained footprint. The next sheet, this is the primary stop. I wanted to just point out a couple of things about it. So we've incorporated red tile at both the base of the column and at the top of the column. The shade structure itself is primarily made of tubular steel, painted a dark brown color to kind of mimic a wood accent on the shelter. It includes a panel above the tubular steel for shade. You can see that there's a bench underneath the shade structure. Then there's this open area where you see this kind of ghost, and in the screen here it's a little hard to see, but there's a open space there where either wheelchairs can wheel themselves in or somebody can lean against a leaning ledge that we've installed in these. So you're not just leaning against like a solid flat surface, there's actually something to put your elbow on. Each of the stops includes a trash receptacle, as is the case currently. Important to note, these are design concepts, so the dimensions and the specific finishes and things would be teased out as we proceed with the design effort. On the next screen, you can again see a rendering of the station from a slightly different angle. On the column itself, there is a number on the front of it. Those numbers will correspond to the OCTA bus stop number assigned to it. So for these renderings, we've used 4181, but they'll be whatever the correct number is per station. On the outside of the column, so the side of the column, the long side of the column you can't see in this rendering, we've proposed including the city of Laguna Woods in recessed lettering within the stucco surface to provide identification that you're in the city of Laguna Woods without some sort of like garish over the top emblem that might be a little bit more visually detracting from the station. The other two elevations, you can see again the side with the city of Laguna Woods recessed lettering, and then you can see the other side where you have a little bit of visibility through the tubular steel accents, so that people approaching the station have some visibility what they're walking up on. There is also vandal-resistant lighting in the station. So the stations right now have lighting, but it's predominantly like ambient lighting from the advertising panels. And so without the advertising panels, we've included a blade light fixture that pushes the light down, but will provide pretty good illumination for the entirety of the bus stop without projecting the light upwards or kind of out into space. It's again oriented down at the station. As I've talked with people about this design, the intent with the benches having the raised arms, sorry, let me go back one. Probably best to see it here. Having the raised arms is not to deter transients, which I know is where a lot of people's minds go towards. It's really that during the day, the transit stops are used by a number of people. If we don't have arms on the bench, my concern is that someone's going to sit on the bench and kind of spill their stuff out along the bench and prevent it from being used by others. So they're not full height armrests. They're just armrests to delineate an individual seat from another to keep one person from occupying the totality of the bench while people are waiting. The shade doesn't do anybody any good if one person occupies all the shade. The smaller secondary stop, again, about 11 inches narrower and about 4.5 feet shorter. This one has a shorter bench, no shade covering, but it does include the lighting and the same, bus stop identification, city branding, trash receptacle as the other station does. So you can see, both side elevations here, again, says City of Laguna Woods. In this one, we've incorporated the leaning ledge on the outside of the column so that people can sit on one side of it and lean up against the column on the other side. Renderings, so this is the primary stop. I'll caution that the concept is not incredibly precisely to scale, although it's approximate. This shows an existing full primary stop on El Toro outside the Home Depot Center. You can see again the advertising and the kind of metallic green build of it. And then on the right side is the primary concept dropped into it. And it does show the lighting on the left side of the column, and the tubular steel accents, the bench, all of that, and the waste receptacle to the side of it. So we think the concept better aligns with the aesthetic here in Laguna Woods than the kind of off-the-shelf, more dated existing stop does.
Now, Chris, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So on both of these, are the same amount of seating on each bench, or it's hard to tell with the existing one?
Yeah, it's the existing benches, I believe, also have 3 seats there. What you're gaining from this is a space underneath the shade where someone can stand or lean against the rail, or a wheelchair can wheel themselves in. In the existing stop, in order for a wheelchair to get underneath the shade, they kind of have to wedge themselves between the angled advertising panel and the bench itself. So it's really not designed for that purpose. We tried to focus on the accessibility piece and also recognize that if you drive by our bus stops, a lot of people prefer to stand while they wait for a bus. And so this gives them the ability to stand under the shade as opposed to the existing structures, which again, you can kind of wedge yourself near that angled advertising panel, but at that point you're kind of awkwardly close and at a strange angle to somebody sitting in the bench. So we tried to make it a little more user-friendly.
Okay.
And then the secondary stop, this is showing Gate 5. Gate 5 has just the existing street furniture and the trash receptacle. So this one, same amount of seats. It's still the two seats at the bench, still has a trash receptacle. It just updates it a little bit with the stucco and the red tile and then the dark brown to, I think, bring a better look to it. In this one, and you might be able to see it better in your agenda packet, but this also gives you kind of a better idea of the condition of the existing furniture. If you look at that trash container there, the trash enclosure, it's got a whole lot of rust all over it. The paint is chipping and coming off of it. There is an option in the existing franchise for the city to purchase the existing transit shelters and street furniture, but candidly, they're really not in a condition where we think that makes any sense, especially fast forward to December 31st of 2027, when such a purchase would be official. So these renderings are also included in your agenda packet. As far as next steps, so where we're at right now, we've wrapped up our part of the conceptual design. We're happy to receive any council direction on this today. After receiving that direction, we would obviously refine the design to the extent it needs refinement. But once we've done that, we need to do the individual assessment of, on a per transit stop basis, whether it's best suited for a primary or secondary stop. We obviously prefer the primary stop because of the shade element in there, but we would want to individually assess each location, figure out what stop it can accommodate. We do think that there are a number of stops where we can pick up some additional space. There are stops that are located next to private property where they just have landscaping behind our transit shelter or some sort of hardscape. We think that there's an opportunity in those locations to secure easements from the private property owners that would allow us to recess the bus or the transit shelters in those locations, which would pick up a little bit more sidewalk space for us, but also open the door to providing the primary stop as opposed to the secondary stop. So we would want to do that individual assessment to see where we have opportunities. That would involve coordination with those private property owners. And then once we've done that and we kind of know, okay, in these locations, this is where we can do the primary stop. These are locations where really that secondary stop is the only option. We would finalize design documents, we would prepare construction drawings, release that for competitive bids, and then we would come back to the council with this is what it would cost and figure out if we're funding it at that point or if we're going to go back and revise anything. So by no means do the drawings in the packet, they're all conceptual. They all need to be fleshed out, taken to a more advanced level. But before we did that, we did want to get your 2 cents on the design direction. So opportunity for public comments. And then unless the council wants to take a vote on anything, I'm really just looking for your feedback on this. And then we'll get back to work. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor for public comments.
We'll take any public comments.
Until we got a little older, we were avid bus riders. We didn't own a car. Have ridden thousands of times on the buses in Los Angeles County and down here. So the canonical bus stop design is in Santa Monica, the little blue bus. And you'll see here, if you can, there's a small little umbrella over the smaller design. So I really recommend you look at that. And of course, a desired feature is, when is the next bus coming? Seattle has amazing things, but this is incorporated into a lot of the bus stops in Santa Monica. When are the next buses coming? It's a simple display. The buses have that geolocation. Now, on the larger thing, this is Santa Monica's design. Chris, could you show the larger design again?
Yes, absolutely. Does this work for you?
The large one. Now, I'm not sure, but every bus driver, you're looking for the bus coming. So it seems like on the right, the view, if you're seated, it might be obscured. That's why the big blue bus in Santa Monica has poles like the old one. So if in any way the seated person's view is obscured of the coming bus, I think that's an issue. And lots of designs, but the big blue bus in Santa Monica is so canonical. It's beautiful, and it's popular. You can buy the little buses in the store. So it really has personality. I like your design, but it doesn't have that allure, I think, that true bus riders like. They see their city buses, their city stops, their colors, and I know maybe it's going to be, as Councilmember Connor said, 2070 or something, when more people start riding the bus and get off the freeways. But it would sure be nice to have that appealing personality. There are a lot of people that love to ride the bus. Also, anything you might do to increase the frequency of the buses. Will this tie in at all to the transit center? Any sort of theme to the benches? It's not a great transit center, but so anyway, big bus riders here, and the big blue bus in Santa Monica would be our model. Thank you.
Come on up. Another public comment?
Yeah, thank you. This might be out of order, but since the buses is being discussed, and I was going to wait till after the meeting to make a favorable comment on something Councilmember Connor said, maybe I can slip it in here. Yes, more public transportation versus more freeway lanes. Yes, we lived near a place at UCLA where 8 buses lined up, dispersing all around Los Angeles and beyond. You could easily get to Pasadena. And it was wonderful. We had a new Prius. We sold it. We gave it back because we found we could spend more time relaxed on the bus. Another advantage of riding the bus is That's where you see the workforce who comes into your city to make it work. That's where the physical workforce comes. I don't mean the intellectual workers who click away on their laptops. I mean the people who do the physical work, and it's good to know who that is. So there are many, many advantages to having good public transportation. There are many, many disadvantages to having more concrete laid out onto more freeways and more cars, big cars now. So yay, yes, a favorable comment. Thank you for making that. And now I won't stick around to bug you later. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comments? No need to.
Hi, my name is Sue Kwam, and I really do like the design. I think it's very nice. It's attractive. Just have a couple of questions. In the original design, does it have a back? Because while we don't have a whole lot of rain, we do have wind. When it rains, it really rains. So I don't know if that matters. That would probably imply additional cost. And then back in the day when I lived in Denver, we had the bus schedule that was on it. And I don't see where that would be. And maybe that's passé. Maybe everybody uses their phones. They don't have any need to look at the connecting bus routes. But I just wondered about those things. Thank you.
Are there any more public comments? Seeing none, public comments are closed.
I can respond to a couple of things. I appreciate the feedback on the design, especially from avid bus riders or avid former bus riders. So the view for approaching buses, I just wanted to reiterate that the way that it would work in this shelter, the blocks would always be past the bus arrival. So if you're sitting in this shelter, the bus, as it's shown there, would be arriving from your left. So you do have transparency through the tubular steel. The block wall would always be at the far side of the stop. So that is just one piece of that. Let me see here. We obviously can't independently increase the frequency of buses. That's an OCTA thing. Having said that, you mentioned, or when Chris was here speaking on M2, they are starting to update their long-range transportation plan. We'll be putting out information to residents on how they can participate in that process, but that would be a good opportunity to wave the flag for bus ridership if that's something you're interested in. I am aware, we haven't looked into this really in depth, but I am aware of the technology that allows the bus stop to identify the next approaching bus. My understanding, and this is from several years back, so it may not be true anymore, was that there was a technical reason we wouldn't be able to implement this here, having something to do with OCTA's app, but we can revisit. It is a useful tool. I don't think we're opposed to looking at it as part of the future design for this. To Sue's question about the bus arrival times, OCTA has, what's not shown here, OCTA installs a pole-mounted sign, and it's interesting, it's like a tube that you spin. So that information is out there, it's just not included on the bus shelter itself, but it's a couple of steps away from it. So that's there. I think, and then I would say for the council's consideration, with respect to the secondary stop, it conceivably could be possible for us to look at some sort of shade structure that wasn't like the primary stop, but was more of a pole with something small over it. If you were interested in us looking at that, we could certainly do that. We had internal discussions about whether or not a back was necessary on these stations. A lot of them back up to existing retaining walls or landscape areas. So we opted not to include it in here, but if the council wanted us to include a back, there's no reason we couldn't include a back. It obviously, it does add to the cost of the station, but it would be a metal panel on the back using, again, kind of similar materials. Wouldn't be solid. The existing, you can kind of see it here, the existing bus stop, most of it is a kind of like see-through metal surface. There's a solid portion of it, but that harkens back to when bus stops had maps and schedules posted in them. So the solid pieces are all empty in our shelters. I think a couple of them have signs about not abandoning shopping carts. So if we put a back on it, it would probably be a relatively see-through metal component of some kind. We'd need to look at the options available there, but we could certainly do that if that was something the council was interested in. So having said that, I'll turn it back for council discussion.
Okay.
So,
turn on your mic.
Okay, my question is, I know there are a lot of things needs to be discussed about this, but today we are approving the recommendation for us to go forward with that. Is that what is our scope?
Yeah, I'm just looking for feedback.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for
okay.
you to approve
Yes,
anything.
that's okay. Okay.
If there, like for
Yeah.
instance, if you said, I really want to see a back on the station, we would add a back to the station.
I see.
If you said, I don't like that there's stucco there, I want it to be red brick, we would do
Yes.
that. So,
Well, see, for me, even that is too much at this time, I feel.
Okay.
Because it's the first time it was being introduced. So we are now, we understand that that's something that we need to be discussing. And the timeline is 2020, is it 28 or 27?
So 27. So let me,
Yeah.
a couple comments on the timeline. We have a
Yes. Mm-hmm.
little bit of time here, so if you want me to bring this back to you with, for instance, some options on backs or some
Mm-hmm.
options on shade or whatever, we can certainly do that. We would move pretty quickly on that because the only time sensitivity we have here is
Mm-hmm.
I don't want there to be a period of time where there's no furniture at a stop because the franchise agreement has ended and we haven't
Yes.
replaced it.
Yeah.
The franchise agreement allows us to require their furniture to be removed on a stop-by-stop basis, which will allow us to coordinate with them to remove it, we build it, then they remove another one, we build it. It's gonna, because there are roughly 25 stops, it's going to take us a little bit of time to do that. 2027 will be here before we know it. So I don't want to drag out the process, but I can certainly come back to you with design alternatives in the next, month or so.
I would feel much more comfortable. Now we understand our timeline and we understand that certain things needs to be done. But I think we need to have at least one more discussion on picking out our specifics and be ready.
We have no,
Yes.
at the staff level, we have no objection
and
to that.
I would feel more comfortable. I don't know about the rest of the council.
Well, I would like to see, whatever it is moving forward, as long as it's consistent. There's a consistency with all of the stops, like the ones that lend for more space, that they have more space, and the ones that have the narrower space, as long as there's some consistency, and some consistency with the design, with the colors, not a blue one here and a red one over there, and consistent with our design standard that we have within the village in terms of the colors.
I like the design you came up with. It's a clean, open design. I just wanted to say about the one at Gate 5. That had always been a full one. The reason they removed the roof and the advertising was for line of sight issues. Since the one that you're proposing has tubular steel in it and no back right now, although a see-through back would be great, that would take away the line of sight issues. I would really like to see a shade there for people, just that plain little bench sitting there in this hot weather. is hot. And
Well,
I know they have room for it.
So that, I'm glad you mentioned it because that's an instructive example in what we talked about with easements and things. So this is the gate. Sorry, Josh, if you can put the slides back on the screen. This is the gate 5 stop currently on the left-hand side. It did have a full enclosure in years gone by. We removed it because actually this stop is primarily on Laguna Woods Village property. And when they were renovating the gate, there were concerns that our stop was going to detract from the, it was partly line of sight, but it was primarily the aesthetic concern that they had renovated the gate and we were going to put the green transit shelter up, and they weren't wild about it. That was the GRF board at the time. It could be different now. But in this particular location, before we construct anything, we would need to have a discussion with the property owner about the location of the transit shelter, because right now we don't have an easement. This is kind of a handshake agreement between the city and the property owner to locate it there, but we obviously want to do things right as we go through this process. At this particular location, I agree with you. It should definitely have shade. I would love to find a way to add shade there. This is one of the more heavily used stops, particularly by Laguna Woods Village residents. So it would be great to do something other than just the bench and a trash can.
Thank you.
Yes.
Actually, once again, things become complex. Believe it or not, a good 12, maybe 15 years ago, this came up in the village about these benches. And I just want to show you how complex this is. Sounds pretty simple. You have benches, you need to replace them, you replace them. Well, it turned out, I went to those meetings, and the person who really stood out was Maxine McIntosh. Some of you may know her. She's long since moved from the village. She was really adamant about these benches, and I began to listen to her, and I noticed, it may seem strange, but some benches allow you to get up more easily than other benches. You may think they're all the same. They are not the same. The two benches that we're looking at, they're on my page, it's on 2 of 2. It's this one, can you find this one? Because strangely enough, I can tell you, the one at the top allows you to get up. The other one is tough. It sounds like an easy one, and I want you to go home. When you're in the village, look around, you'll see some old white benches. They haven't been removed. And Maxine, I still credit her. Every time I walk by and see the green ones, I think of Maxine because she was instrumental. PCM just wanted to go with some benches, and she said no. And she just kept pushing and pushing, and I went to these meetings and I heard her. So I want to point out a couple things that I think we need to take into consideration. That is one of them, how easy it is. These chairs, I think you can notice what I'm talking about, and I think many of us have come to that stage where getting up out of a chair is more easily with certain types than others, and the bench needs to be of a type that aids you to get up. That sounds like a little thing, it's a big thing. Okay, the other thing, it has to do with the shade. I agree with everyone here. I find it troubling when I drive by and see someone standing either in the cold or and it's hot, and there they are, and they're waiting, okay? The second one has to do with the color. It sounds like, hey, we want to be consistent with color, but I have to tell you something else. Some colors reflect heat and others don't. They absorb it. So the color and even the amount of reflection in the paint on the color of the bench is a critical item, because how many of you sat on a hot bench, sat down and whoa, you didn't know it was going to be like that. So the color, the reflection is important, number one. It also is important that the reflectability of it is important, is critical, but it also, the green one, believe it or not, that, and I guess I'd have to compare, but I think the green, notice that that's open, that bench is old-fashioned, but believe it or not, that bench allows you, one, to get up. Number two, it does reflect. Number three, it doesn't collect material on it. Because, you see the flat one there? Gets dirtier faster. It sounds like a little thing, but it's not, because when you sit down, the amount of surface area that you sit on is where the dust is. So these are also little details, but critical. When you look at the shape of the roof, look back on the page 1 of 2, one is rounded, one is flat. I dislike the top one, and I think it's probably because I'm looking at the advertising. I have to be honest, I never liked the advertising, but I understand there was money coming in. You've got to be, sensible. Okay, do I like the clean look? Yeah, I do, but I also want to point out that when you're maintaining and materials depositing from birds, believe it or not, through just the dust and the air that settles on it, one is easier to maintain. So I really suggest you think closely on that one. Finally, there's one other one. There are several here, and that's why I really agreed with Pearl's assessment of meeting this again. I really want to point out that these getting up, the reflection, the shade, the paint durability depends on some of these items, which are paint reflectability and color. So I guess I would still think about the green again because of the issues I've told you previously. Then I have one last thought, and that is, maybe this one isn't so great because something you want to think on. Do we want to be able to leave information and put up there for our city that somebody goes to? And I think 5 is what you mentioned. I highly agree with you. Look how different it looked once they took that nice, really what was the top one without the sign, and put the bare bench. Oh my gosh, nobody was happy with that. So we all know we're in agreement on it. My question is, do we want to be able to provide information? Should we think into the future about what could be? I don't know. I'm just throwing that one out there. So I agree very strongly with what everyone has said and support what they say. And please think about those possibilities that I brought up, because it's a bench. How complex could that be? Actually, it is a little bit.
No, those are all good comments. I think I think we can easily address them. I'll just make a couple of responses. We went back and forth on the roof. It doesn't show it so much in these renderings, but the roof and the upper part of the column, they're actually pitched slightly to allow like rainwater to move off of it and allow things to.
The bird poop.
Yeah, the bird thing is a different concern. We can think on that a little bit more, but we did, again, the materials were selected specifically with ease of maintenance and durability in mind. So I don't have any concerns with like the stucco, the paint, the material we're using for the shade. All of that we're comfortable with being able to maintain. We can double check on the reflectivity of things, but our plan was to use paint types that don't have the reflectivity. I will come back with that information for you to show you what we're looking at there. I think the open bench design is good. When it comes to furniture, there are a million options. We are not planning to custom design furniture for this. So the bench that you see in there is one bench that's available, but there are 150 other bench types available. So I can come back with an option for you. I generally agree that the open kind of design, it lets air transfer a little bit more.
Getting up
it's
too
easier.
on that bench.
Yeah, that's an easy fix. The armrests, there are different heights of armrests. What I'm hearing you say is the armrest should be a little bit higher to let people get up. There's an option for that. We can easily do that.
There are benches, even a bench. I know this sounds, and I can show you how it works, but a bench with no armrests, two different benches. You think, well, they're just there. You sit and you stand up. One is more difficult because of the shape of the seat, pushes you forward and up.
Yeah,
Or the other one is a lifting and getting you. And I can tell you, it is a big difference, and it surprises me. I do agree thoroughly with your point of the armrests in between there, because what can happen on the left, you can get the person who is stretched out on the bench. You cannot sit on the bench, and you want to because it's hot or cold or whatever. The armrests in between allow you access to the bench because that other person, and I think that's probably what you were alluding to.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's your point, and it's well taken. Thank you. I think just think about all those things, because
all of these comments are good, and I think that we
Thank
can
you.
address them. I get the importance of shade.
Thank you.
We can look at some options for the secondary shelter to give it some level of shade. The dimensions will make it hard on the secondary stop. Our hope is that we're able to obtain enough space in most instances to provide actual shade cover. I will say, though, that there are, when we get into citing the individual stops, there are a number of stops that essentially have no ridership. If we look over the course of 3 years, 1 or 2 people over the course of the year used it. And so I do, when we come back to you with kind of recommendations on what stop goes where, I do have a little bit of a concern in spending considerably more on a shelter that's not going to serve anyone. But again, shade is a concern because I don't want people standing out in the elements. I don't want people burning up as they're waiting for a bus. So we'll be mindful of that.
So do you have enough information, enough feedback from the council for the next step?
It sounds like, based on what I've heard, that we can use this general design concept and tinker with some of the specific components of it. The bench design, I want to look a little bit more at the ability to incorporate either what Vicky mentioned with the kind of next bus arriving technology, or, and I think that kind of pairs with what Councilmember Moore said about the ability to provide information to people at the bus stops. So we'll take a look at that, look at the specific paint and materials to make sure that nothing's going to burn people or cause issues. I think I have good feedback.
So do you need a motion or something?
I don't.
Okay.
If there's anything that we haven't talked about that somebody wants to mention, happy to consider that. But I think we'll use this as a starting point and bring you back some options focused on specific design elements. Like I'll bring you back an option for a back on the shelter. I'll bring you back an option for a bench that might be better suited to what we talked about here today. So I'll try to structure the next discussion as tell me which of these options you like, and see if we can't refine the concept a little bit better. Like I said, we'll probably do this relatively quickly just because we do want to get into the design process to be able to replace them so we don't end up with the worst of all situations, no benches or shelters for anybody because the franchisee pulled out their equipment and we're not ready to replace it yet. So, but yes, I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're at item 9.5, City Council meeting schedule.
Yes, I would like to ask if the City Council would entertain the idea of scheduling an additional City Council meeting prior to the next regular meeting on August 19th. We have, kind of like we did today, we moved this transit shelter discussion to today because we were ready to have it, but we have a number of topics that we would like to discuss with the council in more of a study session type format. Chief among them, we expect to have a full draft of the objective design standards for commercial development to discuss. We'd like an opportunity to do that. We also want to have a discussion about a potential expansion to the city's dog park. Topics like that we want to get feedback on and less so direction, or less so specific votes. So if we could look, if you're willing to do that, I would like to suggest either the 5th or the 12th. Staff can be ready for either of those dates. I think in the lead up to this, I think there was a preference for maybe the 5th from at least one council member, but I would anticipate probably like a 2-hour meeting.
What time were you thinking?
I was thinking just Wednesday at 2, since that was going to be my opening offer, since that's our regular meeting time, but I can be flexible on that as well.
Chris, is the bus stop being included or is it separate?
I don't think we'll be ready for that meeting,
Okay.
but there are a number of other topics that we can talk
Yeah,
about.
that would be fine. Yeah.
I'm available on the 5th.
Okay, 5th doesn't work for me.
Okay.
And you were
How about the
thinking
12th?
I think the 12th is what this. Well, how long is this meeting going to be?
I would say 2 hours. Let's save 2 hours for it.
I have another item at 3 o'clock.
We could meet earlier in the day if that worked for.
At 1 on the 12th.
What time in the morning? No,
Is it possible to have the 5th earlier or not? Does that work or not really?
10 doesn't work. 10 doesn't work.
It's fine, 12 is fine.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
is it possible to do it on the 5th earlier?
Would early work for you?
I do
That's
have a
up to you.
doctor's
I
appointment at
can't-
3 in Huntington Beach.
I can't do 10. 12. Can we do 12?
Are we talking about on the 5th earlier? Is it the?
Well, we were just discussing what's the
Yeah,
best
I think
time.
the current question is there availability earlier on the 5th? But it sounds like the mayor has a conflict in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a conflict at
Okay,
10.
and then unfortunately, we have 2 other council members with conflicts in the afternoon. So I think the 5th is probably off the list. We could also, I mean, it's up to you.
What
You
was
can-
that?
Does it have to be at 10?
Yeah, I'm fine, 12 in the morning.
Can we do 11? At 11?
11 to 1? Is that your thing? That
Anyti-
works for me.
It works, that'll work
On the
for me.
5th?
Does that work? On the 12th.
On the 12th, 11 to 1.
5th. She said
12th.
11 to 1 on the 5th, yeah.
The 12th.
I'm confused.
I think what we're asking is, does anyone have a conflict with Wednesday, the 12th, from 11 to 1?
No, I don't.
Okay, now, I'm sorry, say it once more.
Wednesday, the 12th.
On the unfortunately, both times I have doctor's appointments.
Okay.
And they're both, one's at 3 on the 5th and at 1 o'clock on the 12th.
Okay.
A very difficult one to get.
Do you
that's why.
have?
Okay, what is the
How much
majority?
drive time between?
Pardon?
How long would it take you to get to your doctor's appointment? When would you need to be
On the
done?
12th?
Yeah.
If I left here at, I think 30 minutes will get me there on the 12th.
Okay. So
12:30, if I could leave at 12:30. Otherwise, I would come back. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think either, so I can move things around on the agenda to accommodate whatever time is available. So if the window of time is 11 to 12:30, I don't see a reason, I mean, unless the discussion went long, and then you just have to miss some of the discussion. Or we could start earlier, we could start at 10:30 if you wanted to, but it sounds like the mayor has.
So what is the best day for the majority? The best time?
I think everyone can do Wednesday, the 12th, if we started
At 10:30?
10:30 or 11.
Okay,
Okay, if we do 11,
does that work,
11?
Wes?
11 should work.
Okay,
so Wednesday the 5th,
10:30
no,
on
Wednesday the
12th?
12th.
that's why we.
Let me suggest this motion.
Are we saying 10:30 on the 12th?
We're saying 11 on the 12th.
11 on the 12th?
Okay, so
30?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll work.
So if the motion would be schedule an adjourned regular meeting of the city council for Wednesday, August 12th at 11 a.m. At Laguna Woods City Hall, 24264 El Toro Road, Laguna Woods, California, 92637. I will do my best to structure an agenda that we can get through in an hour and a half. Of course, public comments are out of my control and council discussion is out of my control. So with those two things in mind, I will try to balance it. And if we run out of council members at some point, we can always move them to another meeting. But I think we can try to work within that 11 to 12:30 window. August 12th, 11 a.m. Do we have a motion, or well, opportunity for public comments if anybody wants to? Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move it. Second.
All right.
Okay.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I will send a reminder email as well.
Ended at 11 to 12:30 on the 12th, correct?
Yes. Okay.
I just want to make sure.
Okay, so that is done. So now we move to, where am I? Okay, city council reports and comments.
About City Council reports and comments, this is the time and place for members of the City Council to provide reports on meetings attended, including but not limited to meetings of regional boards and entities to which they have been appointed to represent the City of Laguna Woods, and meetings attended at the expense of the City of Laguna Woods pursuant to California Government Code Section 53232.3. Members of the City Council may also make other comments and announcements.
Okay, so the first report is the Coastal Greenbelt Authority, and that is my report. So we met last week, and one of the partners was the Laguna Canyon Foundation, which is responsible for overseeing the 22,000 acres of open space, and they reported on some of their initiatives. Number one, education, and what they do is they provide education for kids, and they take them out on field trips and teach them about the open space and teach them about plants and everything related to the park. And they do this for for many of the Title I schools in the Laguna Woods, Laguna Beach area. They take them on field trips, and these are 2nd to 5th graders. They reported that at the end of the year, they exceeded their goal of 35,000 students. They actually hosted 3,619 students from 132 classes, and they did a total of 81 field trips for the whole school year. They talked a little bit about their outreach, and mainly the report was about volunteer appreciation that they held earlier, and at the Big Bend Canyon Preserve, and they had 100 people attending. About half the audience were long-term volunteers for both Laguna Canyon Foundation and Aliso Wood. They had a total of 200 long-term volunteers attended, 11,000 volunteer service hours, and over 1,000 hours of land tending and invasive weeds pull work. And what they do is they take people out and pull invasive weeds out of the trails and stuff. Over 3,000 members of the public participated in the volunteer events. They also did some trail work hours with 16 hours this season. June 6th was National Trail Day, so people came out to celebrate that. In June, they received a $50,000 grant from OC Parks Foundation for trail decommissioning work on the 4th of July Trail in Crystal Cove Park. Let's see what else. They completed a 3.5-acre, 3-year habitat restoration project in the lower portion of Laguna Canyon Laurel Ecological Preserve. They started a new restoration project, 5-acre Pacific Pocket Mouse Habitat Management Project. More will be coming about the Pacific Park mouse habitation. So anyway, they anticipate the Board of Supervisors approving a grant for a 71-acre habitat restoration project for Parcel 5 in Aliso, Parcel 5 in August. And so they are targeting November Wildlife Conservation Board meeting for grant approval. And that's the end of that report. The council authority meets every other month, so our next meeting will be in September. Location to be announced.
It will actually be here.
It will be here.
Yeah.
Mary is under the impression that it won't be here.
We're correcting the, yeah, it was originally not going to be, it'll be here.
Okay, someone will let Mary know, please. Thank you. And so next is, I lost my page, Orange County Fire Authority.
Thank you. And we have a video to play.
We do. I can play the video. Your video doesn't actually have like somebody speaking with it. We can't play the sound, so the only thing you'll be missing on the video is the dramatic music behind, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
It's a short video.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're in trouble, they will find you and rescue you.
It's amazing.
Not just people, your horses too.
And at night operation.
It's so strange to watch it so quietly.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the night vision, how they can see at night.
Wonder what that horse is thinking. Yeah.
How many pilots does, and how many choppers does the OCFA have, do you know?
Well, we have 5 fewer without the quick reaction force, but I'm not sure exactly how many we have now. But we, of course, reach out to LA and all the other areas. But so we've had a call volume at the Emergency Control Center received 18,507 calls, or 14,262 incidents a month, which is like 455 incidents a day. And that's an increase of 2.52% increase from the previous year. And they dispatched the appropriate response in less than a minute. And it's 10 seconds faster than other areas. And the total response time is 8.17, 90% of the time. So that they have a great response time. At the meeting, we talked about, of course, the grand jury report. And we talked, they just are starting a design and build. They contracted for a new wildfire facility in Rancho Mission Viejo with a gift of 5 square miles, 5 acres from Rancho Mission Viejo. And so they're going to build there, and it's going to at a cost of $23 million. And we added a new standing committee for the capital improvement program, and we approved new action for the staff for salaries and everything. Proposed economic item term sheet for a successor MOU between Orange County Fire Authority and the Orange County professional firefighters that everybody can live with for the next several years. And that we're going to be dark in July and August, so our next meeting will be in September.
Oh, thank you. Next is the Orange County Library Advisory Board.
All right. And I have oh my gosh, our wonderful librarian's here. She's so, I hated to have her sit here all this time. Do you want to go through that? And then I think you're going to want to add a whole bunch to this, if you don't mind. We'll do a real short, it's only 9 slides. It's real fast. You want to put
Josh,
that
if you
up?
can put the slides on the main screen. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead. That's just the intro. This program, I have to tell you, I happened to attend it, and I'm sure Jolene's going to talk about it, but I thought it was fantastic. You want to go forward? It's one that Chris worked to, by the way. Chris, you might as well get some credit on this too. His name was Craig Newton, and Craig Newton not only was a musician and could sing. If you look really closely, that first one just showing you a lot of children there, by the way. I think there were, we'll later see some numbers on this, but he played all of these instruments. And when he talked about the instruments, he talked about, I was thinking what he was providing, and two adults who, one was a grandfather, I think, that had come with the grandchildren, and he talked about the physics of it, the size and the length of the tube, the sound that you get, and the loudness of it. He went through on the end there. I think we're looking at the ukulele, which actually came from Portugal and then was modified in Hawaii and becomes the ukulele. You want to forward that? Okay, to number 3. There are 5 of them. So he shared popular songs from a variety of periods, and he also, in the course of doing this, he was talking about the introduction. So you got the idea of where, and learned. I didn't realize that the banjo had come from Africa. Maybe you knew it. I wasn't aware of that. He talked about drums. Drums also were very common. Obviously, the African Americans didn't bring these instruments. Only, he pointed out, in Louisiana. It was in New Orleans. In New Orleans, they did have instruments, and they made a tremendous contribution. If you see, the one on the left is him showing the drums, the ukulele again, another one. And on the right, he was allowing a small youngster to play the violin. So it's really, I mean, the excitement of this. And afterwards, I happened to go into the library afterward. Here was a woman, older woman from the community, and she was checking out, because they also have the library of things. She was checking out an ukulele. I bet Jolene can comment on that. And he works so well with everyone. You want to forward to, I think is this 4? I think it's 5. Yeah, there were 10 adults, 18 children. The program covered the physics of the instruments. There was math as he had them count along. There was history as he shared the popular songs of historical periods. There was the multiculturalism because he shared the origins of the various instruments, even pointing out when he played the ukulele, he sang, if you remember the song, Aloha Oi, and Aloha Oi was written by the last queen of Hawaii, Liliuokalani, who was the last queen, and she actually wrote that song. So he went into that, all righty. And then maybe you want to talk about these right now. Do you want to, Jolene, point out some of this? Go ahead and come up to the microphone if you'd like. Because these are some of their challenges that they're doing. Go ahead.
So I'm Jolene Finn, the branch manager, and this is Brianna Bickle, the librarian for our branch. And Brianna's going to speak a bit about the summer reading program.
Hi, so thank you. I'm the new librarian at the Laguna Woods Library. So our summer reading program, we're over halfway through. We've had over 300 people sign up at the Laguna Woods branch alone. And it's not too late, so if you want to head over there and grab a reading log and a tote bag, you still can. We have a couple of grand prizes, local places like Trader Joe's and Firehouse Subs donated, and then some further away like the Aquarium of the Pacific or the Bowers Museum has offered us a family membership to raffle off. So we have a lot going on with that. We have a few programs coming up for the rest of the summer as well, like a world famous juggler. We're also doing fairy gardens with the UC Master Gardeners this month as well. And yes.
I think that'll come up later in the slide presentation, Brianna and Jolene. There are a couple more slides you want to, oh yeah, there it is right there. That's your garden. You want to talk about that one?
Oh, yes. So the UC Master Gardeners come to the library every month. They have different topics that they present on. This time they'll be doing a small presentation, and then all of the members will get the chance to make a small fairy garden to then take home with them.
All right. And let's see what we have. Oh, these are a couple of other of the, oh, you want to talk about that one, the juggler?
Sure, yeah. So Michael Rayner, he's been on countless shows, Tonight shows, America's Got Talent. He's been all around the world. He has a pretty impressive following online as well. The picture there, that's his trademark trick. He balances a cheeseburger on a parasol, and then the pickles fly out, and the kids go wild for it. So yeah, we're really looking forward to him.
All right. Now, would you leave that one up? This is really strange that came up. I happened to be at the library and checked out a recent book that they had, and it was called Family of Spies. I won't go into that book. It was really quite good. It was about World War II, and it got me interested in something else. And I was looking for a book that was written about 1944. And I went online. Because we are a member of the Orange County Public Library system, we have access to millions of books. Where one library, like Irvine now, you have one building, you can't possibly keep everything. You eventually have to cull it out. Well, this book, it's over 80 years old. This book is called the Chrysanthemum and the Sword. I looked on there and I thought, we'll probably have to do a loan and go somewhere and find it. Oh my gosh, of course it's in this system because it's kept at one of the libraries. And Jolene apologized for the condition. Believe me, I was so glad to be able to get that book that I didn't even care. And we wouldn't have had this, would not have been available if we didn't belong to the system, because nobody's going to keep these books like the Maltese Falcon, by the way, another old one, which is what I happened to get it at the Lake Forest, Raymond branch. Anyway, I'm just telling you what we have access to. It's fantastic. And you ladies are fantastic. You're doing so many great things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to comment anything further you want to add that I missed? Go ahead.
Well, nothing that you missed, but just to go back to fire safety, I looked it up. In October 2024, we did have a Orange County Fire Authority come out for a fire safety program, which included hands-on opportunity to learn how to use a fire extinguisher. So hearing the interest in fire safety, we can look into doing that again this fall if we're able to coordinate with Orange County Fire Authority. They do have a whole community resource program, so we'll work on that. And then also in January of 2026, we did have UC Master Gardeners come out, and the topic for that month was firescaping, minimizing fire risk at the home landscape. So I'm glad to hear that we're doing things that are relevant and of interest to the community, and we'll continue to work on that.
We think you're terrific. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to head out because we close at 5, so we need to go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both.
Okay, next we have the Orange County Mosquito and Vector.
I do not have a report this month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor.
Sure. When the toll roads were built, the California Environmental Quality Act and the commission that enforced it gave them 300 different mitigation measures that they were required to do because they were building through pristine land. And one of them is to maintain a habitat for the California gnatcatcher, an endangered species, in perpetuity, because we were paving over some gnatcatcher land. And so that means we have to trap cowbirds, because cowbirds...
Oh, gosh.
Amber alert?
Sorry.
Okay.
I thought I had it on.
The cowbirds they're nest borrowers. They're not nest predators, but they lay their eggs in the gnatcatcher's nests, and then they hatch sooner, and the birds are bigger, and they outcompete the little birds for food. So we have an ongoing active trapping program. We're also expanding our wildlife fencing, which has, in the areas where it exists, it funnels the animals into the undercrossings that were built, that were designed into the hillside when the roads were built. And since the fencing has been in place, in the areas when it's been in place, there have been 0 crashes between deer, bobcats, and wildcats. And of course, we're glad to protect the precious wildlife. But you have to remember, when a car going 60 miles an hour hits a deer, it's not only the deer that suffers. So we are improving the safety of the roads for our drivers as well. So this is going to be expanded onto Highway 73, I think in the area south of here, and it's going to be expanded another 6 miles or so along the Highway 241. We're also doing some bond buybacks and debt reduction, and I'm going to talk about that next month.
Do you know, by the way, how many deer are in that area?
No, it's not our area.
I'm just curious.
Okay, South Orange County Watershed Management. Councilmember Moore.
Oh, no, we don't have, I don't have a report. Sorry, I was busy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other comments and reports? Seeing none. So the next item is closed session. And so we will adjourn this meeting to go into closed session.
Hold on, we need to announce the titles and
Okay.
Theoretically take public comment if anybody, I guess Zoom commenters could comment if they're there. Okay, no one's on Zoom. All right, there are 2 closed session items this afternoon. One pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957B1 to consider the public employee performance evaluation of the city manager. And the second under California Government Code Section 54957.6 to confer with the labor negotiator, which is me, regarding the city manager. And there is an opportunity for public comment, but no.
Open for public comments. Seeing none, public comments are closed. So now we will adjourn to closed session.
Well.
Okay, I call the meeting back to order. The council is in session. So I would refer to our city attorney to speak on the closed session.
The council met in closed session on 2 items, one pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957B1 to consider the public employee performance evaluation of the city manager, and the second pursuant to California Government Code Section 54957.6 to confer with the city's labor negotiator, in this case me, regarding an unrepresented employee, the city manager, and there are no reportable actions on either of those items.
Thank you. Oh, do we need public comments on this? Okay, thank you for that. So the closed session report is submitted. So now we're at adjournment to our next regular meeting, which is going to be Wednesday, October.
Our next adjourned regular meeting is Wednesday, August 12th at 11 a.m.
I'm looking at it right here and it says October. Oh, it says August. Why did I get October from? Oh, I knew it was a different date. So it's August 12th at 11 a.m. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.